John Bell cut 3 right out the blocks. How long, man? 2 minutes? Is that me dinging? Yeah. What's up with that, yo? Oh! Okay. I think I might have Mooyah for lunch today. It's been a minute.
You know, I might too, because I haven't had Mooyah since I've been here.
Oh.
We had Mooyah in Texas. It was right next to where I live. So
Yeah.
I went there. To the point where it kind of made me sick of it for a stretch of period. But I could do with a good burger. I don't know, bro, but the Whataburger came out. I know we're not sponsored, but Texas, man. It's Whataburger. They opened one just off of, Burbank.
Yes, I saw that.
Rouse's, the Chick-fil-A.
Where's there Rouse's on Burbank? Where's there a Rouse's on Burbank?
Burbank and Lee. Yeah, it's Lee.
Did that used to be a Winn-Dixie?
Maybe. I've only known it as a Rouse's since I've been here.
Oh, no, that used to be the Del Champs. And then, no, that's a Walmart Marketplace. Never mind. I don't know what I'm thinking of Highland and Lee. I'm off by a mile. Like, literally, a mile and a half.
Literally.
Brrr. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running on this chilly Friday morning. Freeze Apocalypse 2022. I don't think we're going to call it that because I don't want to tempt fate for a worse one to come down the road. If you'll recall, 2021's freeze was in February, so definitely don't want that. Welcome aboard. Welcome in. If you're enjoying a day off because of the cold, go back to bed. What are you doing listening to this? Go back to bed. Enjoy it. This is snuggle weather. Find a bigger comforter. Oh, anyway. If you are planning on being out and about today, there's a number of reasons why you might not need to be. First of all, local government buildings going to have a delayed opening this morning because of the cold weather, pushing everything back by 3 hours. When it comes to schools, Ascension Parish has canceled classes for today. Assumption canceled for today. Catholic schools in Baton Rouge going virtual for today. Central has canceled classes. East Baton Rouge classes will be held. So our news partners at WBRZ says it'll be held remotely. There was word yesterday that they were just going to push back going to school by a couple of hours, but now this says classes will be held remotely Friday. All Head Start locations are closed today. Centers will reopen Monday, January 24th, with the exception of Wonderland and CDLC Head Start centers. East Feliciana has canceled classes. Iberville gone virtual for the day. Livingston, canceled. Point Capee, canceled. St. Helena, all classes are virtual starting at 8 a.m. West Baton Rouge Parish has canceled classes for today. West Feliciana, campuses are closed today. Schools will provide virtual learning. Zachary Community Schools, campus is closed. Schools will reach out to students about remote learning activities. LSU, classes will go on as scheduled. Baton Rouge Community College will go virtual. Southern University, pushing back opening until 10 a.m. this morning. There's a number of other schools around Baton Rouge, way too many to list individually. So the bottom line there is check with your school. Please check with your school for any communication needed. We live in a day and age where you shouldn't have to rely on TV or radio for that information. It should be directly from school to parent or from school to family. So where are we exactly with the freeze? Well, you heard the forecast just a little while ago, and we are officially freezing. 32 degrees right now in downtown Baton Rouge. We are still showing that we have a possibility of rain for about 2 hours. 60% chance of rain this hour, drops down to a 50% chance of rain next hour. We're going to remain at freezing until about 10 a.m., at which point it will tick up by 1 degree. We're looking at about 10-mile-an-hour winds basically all day today into tonight, or into this evening. The temperature today is supposed to top out, I want to say it was 42. Yes, top out at 42 degrees. Tonight, get ready for a repeat of the cold weather, all the way down to 25 degrees. A lot of preparation went into this, as it looked like we were going to get more rain than we did. Things are, well, as of yesterday afternoon, started looking much, much better. In fact, Governor John Bell Edwards in his weekly COVID press conference made reference to the winter weather preparation, saying that it looked like the news was better than, well, the storm we saw last year.
The good news here, and we got a briefing from the Public Service Commission to this effect, based on the forecast, we're not expecting power outages. You may remember that last February we had a winter storm with a lot more precipitation, and you ended up with more trees and tree limbs knocking power out as those ice accumulations became so heavy that the trees gave way, or that the ice accumulations on the lines themselves caused problems. And then that cascaded into loss of electricity, water systems, and impact at hospitals and so forth. We are not expecting that this year, because the precipitation will be such a short duration and such a small amount, at least as forecasted.
And the precipitation's one big part of it. The other big part of it is we're not staying below freezing the entire time. We had a couple days where it never got above 32. Today's high is 42, tomorrow's high is 49, Sunday's high all the way back up to 55. Now tonight's low 25, tomorrow night's low 23, Sunday night's low 30. So it's going to be cold for sure, but we're not in any kind of danger zone. Obviously, take care of your pets, take care of your pipes, take care of your plants. Check on any neighbors, especially elderly neighbors. We always want to do that. We will have Fred Raiford on to talk about what's going on, preparation-wise, what's going on with our roads. I just got a text from the mayor's office a minute ago saying, per Fred, we have no closures from the city standpoint right now. I-110, you heard this from our traffic report, I-110 is still closed in both directions as it is elevated. That is a precautionary measure they take regularly. I-110 is still closed, but should open this morning. It is starting to mist in some areas, but it doesn't look like we're going to have any accumulation or any major issues. So, Fred Raiford will be on at 7:15. We are going to have Kurt Monty from the fire department on at 7:15 as well. We'll kind of toggle back and forth between those two, as we will dedicate that segment towards not just what we're looking at when it comes to the cold weather, but overall general cold weather safety. Now is a time where we normally see an uptick in fires. Space heaters can be the devil. Well, improper use of them, improper care, negligence, these things contribute as well. So we'll talk with Kurt Monty, we'll talk with Fred Raiford. Those are just two of our guests this morning. The rest of the rundown, here we go. Haggai Davis going to be on the hotline for a shot glass of Tech Gumbo. Only doing half the segment today, so it's not a cup of Tech Gumbo, it's a shot of Gumbo. That's coming your way at 6:35. Author Brad Taylor. This guy has an extensive military background, and he is using that background to write incredible novels. I actually already recorded this interview. We're going to play it back at 6:52. Like I said, in our 7 o'clock hour, 7:15, we'll have Fred Raiford. We will also have Kurt Monty. 7:35, we're talking to the folks from Hope Ministries about Rise LA. In our 8 o'clock hour, super hyped for this. Okay, so there's been this series on Discovery called Shock Docs. And if you're a regular listener of the show or viewer of the YouTube, you already know this. Basically, Shock Docs takes horror films and does the investigation of the true story behind them. Like most horror films, they weren't just created out of thin air. They all started with somebody in real life. Like Psycho was Ed Gein. That was a good one. Anyway, there's another episode of Shock Docs that's out right now. It's streaming now on Discovery Plus. So I had to get back in touch with Steve Shippy. Steve hosts the show. This time around, the true story behind Scream. And I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to tell you, it hits closer to home than you may think. That's at 8:15, and then we will round things out with legendary guitarist and author Lenny Kaye before we get out of here as well. We are super late for a break. Let's go ahead and take that now. When we come back, it's time to talk a little playoff football here on Talk 107.3. Did I email you a soundbite of Tom Brady talking about playoffs? Crap. That's my fault. All right, I'll just run down the schedule. What up, Chandler?
You got anything fun planned for the weekend?
I am going to dinner tomorrow night. Me and my wife are going out to dinner tomorrow night.
Nice.
With another couple. Some wonderful people, the Willises.
I'm actually doing the same thing. Not with the Willises.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say the Willises are busy. Where are you going?
It's going to be at my girlfriend's friend's house. Both of them really want me to meet her boyfriend. Apparently we'd get along really well, but I've never met him before. So it's supposed to be like a little dinner party, dinner date kind of thing. I don't know. Should be fun.
What makes them think that y'all will get along well? I hate when girlfriends play matchmaker.
Yeah. They seem really enthused about it.
Which means you're forced to be enthused about it as well.
Yeah.
Guy could be a colossal dick, and you have to fake it.
Yeah. Hopefully he's not a prick, but I'm sure he's fine.
I want to find out who he is and tell him to bash soccer at every turn.
Yeah, that wouldn't. I mean, I'd be used to it.
So, Chandler and Claire. Chandler's. We've been friends for goodness gracious. It's been well over a decade now. Craziest third-party small world story that how we met, and they've just been awesome people. Claire, I think, is going to be back on next week. She's with she's the one that gave me the baseball bat with the Young Entrepreneurs Academy.
That's awesome.
So we're going to Solu. Solu's been open for almost a year now, maybe more than that, and I've yet to go because
I've never heard of it. What kind of restaurant is it?
It's so indulgent. It's Southern Louisiana, SOLU. Solu.
Okay.
But there's a whole load of Peter Sclafani spin on it that it's gonna be great. I've yet to go. Christy and I, we rarely go out, so I'm fired up.
Sounds like it'll be a good time.
Yeah. Plus, getting to hang with Chandler is always awesome. .617, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Well, I got to swing by Low Bears today. I tell you that. Swing by and place a couple more bets for the weekend, as it is divisional playoff round weekend. Although I don't know where my money's going to go yet. Let's see. Oh, first of all the games are going to be on our sister station, 104.5 ESPN. Here's the rundown for this weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, 3:30 p.m., Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, and the Bengals are going to be at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's given 3.5. They are the 1 seed, and they got Derrick Henry back, and he is just still a specimen, but might be rusty. I don't know. Tennessee's given 3.5 in that one. That game will be followed at 7:15 by 49ers at Packers. Sunday, you got Rams at Buccaneers. Boy, Aaron Donald's role this weekend is going to be, like, unbelievably weighted, if you will. I mean, 2 aerial shows there, right? You got Stafford with all of his wide receivers, and then on the flip side of the football, you got the GOAT. Rams at Bucks on Sunday at 2, and then the weekend will round out Sunday evening, 5:30 p.m. kickoff. The Bills will be at the Chiefs. All of them will be in our sister station, Eagle 98.1. There is your weekend football action. On the hardwood, LSU remains on the road. They had a snafu getting out of Tuscaloosa, so they just didn't come home. They shifted gears, and instead of heading west, headed north. They are going to be at number 24, Tennessee, 5 p.m. tip-off there. I got to tell you, that'll be on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame starts at 4:30. I kind of like the idea that they got stranded in Tuscaloosa because you got back-to-back losses, and you were on the cusp of having a, quote, losing streak. I know it sounds like, it takes you out of your routine, it takes you off kilter, that sort of thing. But that sort of thing can also be very reminiscent of the rain out in Bull Durham, where rather than being a hardship, it becomes a bonding experience for the team and can right the wrong mentally, get you focused mentally. Anyway, LSU will be at Tennessee on Saturday. LSU women back at it on Sunday. At some point, I need to get Reggie Flood on the show to talk Southern University football, because I haven't been intentionally keeping an eye on it. It's just been popping up in my feed. Southern's crushing it in the transfer portal.
Are we going to use the JVE3 again?
No. Maybe. I don't know. Just leave it up. Excuse me. Didn't mean to sniffle in you. Why do I... Holy God.
Do you have an order you want to go with this? JVE first or Cantor first?
I have no idea. JB first, sorry. But it's going to go like 1-1-2-2. See, I do have an idea. It's going to go Mooyah first, because I didn't do my stupid Mooyah. Did not do my Mooyah. Damn it. All right, what's going on, YouTubes? Nina, what's happening? How was the drive-in? Speedy, I was running about 5 minutes late this morning, and I hate being late. I know what you were getting at. I'm just being silly. Dry, and I have a very tree-covered drive, and bear in mind, my drive into work is just one microcosm of the whole. Like, I try not to make that's emblematic of everything around, but I have a very tree-covered drive. So Goodwood Boulevard to Government Street. And then all the way downtown from there. Nary a drop. Not a drop of rain on me. Very, very little on the ground. So provided we could stay like that for the next 2 hours, we should be in the clear. Like I did say, I-110 is closed in both directions. I'd be interested to get a report from somebody in, say, Livingston Parish. If you are in Livingston Parish, sound off if you've already been outside. Don't, for crying out loud, don't go outside just to make a report, though. Eric says, good morning. If they had cars driving on it, it's less likely to freeze over. So there's like a diminishing returns or a point of demarcation where that no longer applies, though, right, Eric? So it should be opened up. I want to say 7 o'clock, but you have to have a certain amount of volume on it in order for that to apply. Having one car every 5 minutes does not get it done, and from 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock, that's about what you'd have on I-110. Good place, so Lou. Only knock about the place is it's really loud. Ooh, excuse me. A little burpee. Where just normal chitter chatter, you can't hear the people at your own table. I will take that into consideration. Good morning, Renee. Oh, God.
There's a little corner behind you that peeks into the wall.
I'm so ready to be done with these curtains. We've got to redo the studio. Yeah. No, I mean like the whole thing. We need to redo the whole damn studio. Well, I have no vision. I'm not the TV guy. Yeah. Oh, crap. That's next segment, not this one. 624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. I'm refreshing the weather. I'm going to try to do this as frequently as I can because it's going to turn out to be a big nothing burger, right? But at the same time, though, precautions have been taken, so we need to give alerts throughout the morning. 32 degrees right now in downtown Baton Rouge. I-110 is still closed in both directions. And for the most part, schools are either closed or have moved to virtual. The list is too long to refresh every segment. That would eat up the entire show. So just know that your school probably has been in touch with you. Your kid's school has probably been in touch with you. Any accurate information, the most up-to-date information, does not need the middleman of a news outlet. We ran down the list at the beginning of the show. The overwhelming majority of schools are closed or virtual this morning. I don't see anything other than LSU. I don't see anything that is live and in person throughout the morning or throughout the day today. Also, state office is going to have a delayed opening this morning. Nobody's opening up until 10 a.m., which, according to the weather report or the forecast, we should be back up above freezing by 10 a.m. We should be up to 33 degrees by 10 a.m. All right. Governor John Bel Edwards held what is once again a weekly press conference talking about COVID-19, the Omicron variant. Yesterday afternoon, he and Dr. Cantor were at the podium. One of the things that the governor was talking about was, and it's hard to find good news right now with it because the numbers have been so steadily rising. As of yesterday, day before yesterday, we were at 2,183 COVID-19 patients in the hospital. As of yesterday, that number jumped by roughly another 200 or so. And since we're up over 2,300, it's important to note that we are within 1,000 of where we were at the absolute peak of the Delta variant, which was by far the worst it's been since the beginning. So one of the things about the Omicron variant that we've been clinging to has been that it hasn't been as deadly, as dangerous. Now, it still hasn't been as deadly, but more and more people are going to the hospital, and more people go to the hospital. That's when we start to run into problems with other things. Are we at the peak yet? Are we going to peak? Governor John Bel Edwards says he doesn't think we're there just yet.
I can tell you that right now there is a tremendous amount of COVID in terms of cases and transmission and hospitalizations and deaths, as much as we've ever had in the state of Louisiana. And when we do peak, and we will at some point, I want everybody to understand, it's not like the whole state rises and falls together. There will be some regions of our state that will be in a plateau, some will be declining, some will still be ascending. But what I can also tell you is that for several weeks, our baseline numbers on percent positivity, cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, and unfortunately, hospitalizations always lag a little bit, and deaths lag even further behind. We're going to be at very elevated levels for quite a while.
Okay, so we have not peaked just yet, but there are starting to be signs that it could be in the very near future. Dr. Joseph Cantor sounded off on that, kind of following up what the governor had to say, kind of sounded off, and interestingly enough, sounded a little bit more positive about it.
We're likely in the process of peaking right now. This is after another week of record numbers. You never really know for sure that you've peaked until you're on the other side of it. But as the governor said, there's 2 points to make to that. Number one, it's likely that certain parts of the state might still experience increasing numbers, even if the statewide numbers do show that they are peaking and might be going in the right direction sometime soon. And the other point to make on that is, once you've peaked and coming down the other side, you're still awfully darn high.
He makes a good point about not knowing the peak until you've already gotten there. One interesting thing that we saw coming out of the Martin Luther King Day holiday, we went from Friday to Tuesday and only added 10 people to the hospital with COVID. The number of hospitalizations only went up by 10. Since then, it's gone up by another 300. So, but talking about that peak, though, and going back to the order of things, how it plays out, the governor told you you'll see a delay in hospitalizations and a further delay in deaths. Well, that all starts with positivity rate. And this was what had me feeling good about yesterday's press conference when Dr. Joseph Cantor noted.
On the bottom, we see percent positivity. And one piece of encouraging news for us is this is the first week in a while we've seen a decrease. We went down from, we reported last week, 28.6% positivity, now down to 27.5% of all tests being conducted are coming back positive. So that's a reassuring point right there.
It is, and it's a week's worth of data. Looking at a holiday weekend is just a holiday weekend. You can't determine a trend from that. 1 week is, as we've seen throughout COVID, half a trend. Hey, we got news coming your way in just a little bit. Do have to ask you if you got lunch plans just yet. If not, Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. Now, I'm not going to press you to have a milkshake on a day where it's 35 degrees outside at lunchtime, but you do want a nice, juicy, hot hamburger, cheeseburger, a Mooyah classic double, a double Diablo, a hamburger dog where you have the hamburger and the hot dog on the same bun. They're all available at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes, or build your own. You know how you like it. Build your own at either location. Segan, just north of Industriplex. Blue Bonnet at Highland. I was talking to Jake during the break a little while ago. I think I'm doing Mooyah for lunch today. He said, you know what? I think I am doing Mooyah for lunch today, too. You can as well. Segan, just north of Industriplex, Blue Bonnet at Highland. Get yourself the best burger in Baton Rouge, the best service in Baton Rouge, fresh ingredients, fresh baked potato buns, Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. Awesome! Bing bong. My 14-year-old started doing that. Hey, yo! And she's good at it. I'm like, you've never been to New York. You've never met anyone from New York. You've met one person from New Jersey. Like, you don't. No. Well. Hey, yo. In the second one, he says, give me a kiss.
Yeah. Dude, that dude, did you know that they had a GoFundMe for that guy? They raised like tens of thousands of dollars for him.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no way he wasn't like a crackhead in the 80s and 90s.
100%. I hope he spent it well.
Like on really good crack.
Sincerely. I hope he spent it well. Morning. Do I need to call Haggai?
He should be calling us.
Cool beans.
I-110, Jeff. Ooh. Jeff's been the all-star all week long. And he left off one number. Here we are in a room full of strangers. Here we are in a room full of strangers, standing in the dark where your eyes couldn't see me. Well, I had to follow you. Oh. Eric says, yes, but leaving it to freeze over. Good luck if that happens. So the good news is it's not gonna. Once again, we don't have the common sense to drive when it rains. I think you're making my argument there, Eric. Nina says, yes, get Reggie on. I would love to hear about my Jaguars. I've always... So, Southeastern Conference football is here, and SWAC football is here. And when it comes to viewership, when it comes to revenue, when it comes to overall attention paid, they're both in our city. And LSU dominates the headlines so much, and I have literally 3 minutes for a sports segment. I should find a way to get Reggie on probably, I don't know, at least during the football season. Maybe beginning and then when they're in the heart of conference play. But they're crushing it in the transfer portal. I will say this, though. I've reached out to about Southern University, not just about Southern University football. I've reached out to a half a dozen people trying to get somebody on about the chancellor search, and I am just coming up empty. If y'all have some names, if y'all know who you want to hear from when it comes to the chancellor search at Southern, let me know. I am happy to hit them up, but I'm swinging and missing. I'm still impressed with the get by Dion in recruiting. I am for right now, yes, I am scared to death of how that's going to play out. Because if this Barstool Sports story is true, now you're looking at the possibility of a sports book, a house of gambling, buying a player. And I don't care if it's 1AA or, FCS, whatever. What you're looking at right there is the betting world owning the players that you and I would be betting on and watching on Saturdays. Coach Prime, he's legit, but that would cross a dangerous threshold and would bring about an end to NIL. I'm getting the feeling that you just love to do closure announcements. I really do. No, I don't. I hate it. I hate it so much. Oh, God. get ready for your throat punch comments. My predecessor, my mentor, he thrived on that. He lived on that. But bear in mind, when Matt Kennedy started in radio, it was the early 90s. You couldn't just pull up an app. J-Bo's tagline was, depend on it. I'm like, no, depend on the direct source. Don't depend on me for doo-doo, except a little entertainment. .638, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. It's time for a cup of tech gumbo. Although today we kind of split the segment. I didn't know if I was going to have Haggai, so I had booked an author. That's coming up in the back half of what would normally be a cup of tech gumbo. So today it's a shot glass of tech gumbo. Joining us now via the hotline, not in studio today because the computer guy got a virus. Haggai Davis, did you not back up your system at least 3 times?
I did, Brian, but fortunately, because I backed up, I've just been reloading the computer from the backups.
Okay, that's fair. But I mean, double vaxxed and boosted, and you have a slight cough. You sound fine.
Yeah, that's still it. There's some days when you got COVID because it's grabbing you in the chest and pounding, and then some days it's like no big deal.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing.
Well, stick with it. Get better soon. We hope to see you back here next week. It stinks because you're I know I'm one of Dr. Cantor's statistics right now. You are one of Dr. Cantor's statistics in so many different ways. So let's dive in. We got a couple different topics to talk about. I was looking at the
first thing we want to say though, this is our 200th show this week.
Really? All right.
Yes. So in 7+ years, this is the 200th Tech Gumbo airing on a new show airing on Talk 107.3 FM.
See, 200th show would be the 400th airing because it's Saturday and Sunday at 4. Boom.
This is true.
Well, good deal. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
You're just crushing the milestones recently.
I know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. All right, we got 2 topics we need to talk about today.
Yes.
One that's been in the headlines and one that I'm hoping will be in the headlines. First of all, Verizon and AT&T agreed to last-minute 5G C-band delays for all airports. Basically, what we're looking at is a buffer zone around airports so that your Candy Crush does not crash a plane.
This is really interesting and fascinating to look at because this 5G, the C-band technology, has been around at least on the books for 8 years. The IEEE, which standardized the technology, came out in 2014 and said, this is what is going to be. Mm-hmm. So make sure your equipment is ready for this. So the airlines, the FAA, they've known this is coming for a long, long time. And in December, they kind of stuck their hand up and said, wait, you're serious about that $100 billion you've spent rolling this out? You're really going to use this now?
Right.
And so, the AT&T and Verizon, who spent all this money, and T-Mobile said yes. And the C-band, so there's 3 bands of the 5G technology. The low band, the high band, and the middle range is the C-band, and that's what's going to be the widest amount of coverage. And it's what's going to give you that really high download speeds and everything. And it's got people in these airlines, in these airplanes, freaked out because there's a possibility that it could interfere with the altimeters in some of the planes.
Okay.
And most of the planes nowadays, the equipment inside, and I'm not a pilot, but the equipment is shielded from this kind of interference. And so it's not as much of a threat. And the FAA came out yesterday and said, yes, most commercial airlines, in fact, are safe. It's not going to be a problem. But the FAA and the FCC agreed to a 2-mile band around airports, around some airports.
Some
which
airports.
is very fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So
What's even
Go ahead.
more fascinating to me, Haggai, is the fact that this is a worldwide launch, worldwide technology, and an American problem.
it really well. This has been going on. The C-band has been rolled out in Europe for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And they've not had any kind of problems over there. But the technology that we use in the United States is obviously, according to the FAA and these airlines, a whole lot more susceptible to problems than the same planes that will land in the same 5G technologies in France, for example. And it's really fascinating when you look at there's of the 50 airports, Atlanta Hartsfield is not listed, but but the Syracuse, New York is. New Orleans is not listed, but DFW is, and the Denver airport is not listed, but the Teterboro right outside of New York City is listed, and it's a real strange hit and miss where which airlines or which airports are actually on this list.
Well, once you bring up New Orleans, it brings up a significant question of where is it actually needed. If you're landing a plane in New Orleans, you're coming in off the lake, so you don't have a whole lot of 5G. I mean, unless you got a couple guys fishing.
You're flying right over Williams Boulevard, coming in over the lake. If you're coming in on the north-south runway,
okay. But
if you're coming in from the west, sure, you're flying over the marsh out there. That's no big deal.
That brings up a good question, though. Is like how much 5G can interrupt the whole thing? Your altimeter's good. Your altimeter's good. Your altimeter's good. Your altimeter's bad. Now it's good again. Like how much does it take to cause these catastrophes?
That's a great question, and I can't give you that answer. I don't know. The fascinating thing is 5G is a very, very sophisticated technology that you can do what's called beamforming. You can direct where you want your signal to go with 5G cellular, so that if your tower is a mile away from the airport runway, you can have your signal point in the opposite direction of the airport, so your 5G is not pointing back toward the airport. Or if your tower is in the middle of the glide path coming in, you can just not turn on 5G right there. And so there's a lot of workarounds that you can do, and a bunch of these airports that were on the list, the ones that were excluded, like Denver, there is nothing around the Denver airport for 10 miles. Okay, that would make sense. But Atlanta Hartsfield?
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's kind of a busy airport.
Yeah, and so the FCC was saying that a lot of these airports we weren't going to put 5G up around them right now anyway, so that's why they're not on the list, kind of thing. These were airports where we are going to turn up, like Flint, Michigan.
And is a 2-mile buffer worth anything? Like, for example, if New Orleans had been on the list, would a 2-mile buffer even cover enough ground to allow you to? Okay, if you're on an airplane and you're landing, you're going more than a mile a minute when you hit the ground. So do you have enough time to recover from any kind of altimeter mess-ups if you're landing in New Orleans, you're flying over Chateau and Kenner, like less than 2 minutes before you hit the ground?
A lot of it has to do with the visibility issues. If there's fog, if it's rain, and you can't see the ground, that's when the altimeter becomes much more important. So if it's a sunny day, well, you can tell how high you are. That's not that big of a deal for you, and that's where the issues are. So if you have real foggy conditions, if you have zero visibility, you need all of your equipment, and that's when the FAA is real worried.
I tell you what, I recorded an interview with Brad Taylor. We're gonna push that back to later on in the show. Haggai, can you hang out?
Yeah, sure.
Because we got so much more to cover, and we got a break right here. Haggai Davis, Cup of Tech Gumbo. It's actually going to be a Cup of Tech Gumbo today, and not just a shot glass. Continuing right after Your Money Now. Damn it! I'm gonna piss Premiere off. I don't care. This is good. We can be a couple seconds late. Yeah. All right, so here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to find a spot for Lenny Kaye. Or do I just find another spot for Brad Taylor? No, I edited Brad down to where he would fit specifically in that 6:52 segment to just blast right out of, and we would be like 8 seconds late for news. But I tagged Brad in the tweet, so of course I did. Lenny Kaye, I did not tag in the tweet because I couldn't find where he had a Twitter because he's 100 years old. So let's push Brad back to 8:40. Yeah, we'll put Lenny on Monday, and I'll see if I can't narrow it down. Shit, I got that segment booked already Monday. Next year, I spent a lot of time scrambling for guests this week, and a lot of them got bumped to next week. Like Woody Overton, host of the Real Life Real Crime podcast, going to be on with us Monday at 8:15. Boom! Talked to him yesterday. That guy's just crushing it. He is owning life. Doing good work, too. Yeah. For now. All right, Clinton says Jay Darden's pretty good about emailing us about closures and such, and there isn't an email or anything on the Department of Administration's website. Yeah, I got nothing from DOA, and I don't think they've had any closures. I was going through that list earlier. City Parish for East Baton Rouge is pushed back to 10 a.m., right? No. What is it? EBR delays. No, I got nothing from the city, or from the state, I should say. Which, like you said, is weird. For sure. Definitely weird. Haggai, Brian, I can hear you over the commercial while on hold. You're supposed to be able to hear me on the commercial on hold. As there's no way around that. We had a previous host who learned a lesson very harshly about that, too. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Did I say bad things about him? No, I don't talk bad about Haggai. Haggai's the best. Why does his voice sound different? That's the COVID. Idea for 5G workaround. Equip co-pilots with a Garmin smartwatch and have their own altimeters. You're welcome, FAA. Denver's a miserable airport bedazzled with turquoise. Go to YouTube after this show's over with. You're already on YouTube. After the show's over with, on YouTube, look up Denver Airport Illuminati. Yes. You're welcome.
Yes, Brian. Yes.
You know the stories?
It's a wonderful story.
The artwork, the
fences.
Oh, yeah.
They go inward, bro. They're trying to keep people in. It's real, I tell ya.
Sing some Lou Reed songs? Oh. No. Definitely not singing Meatloaf songs. Hello. What's more surprising? And this is so too soon. What's more surprising? That you woke up this morning to learn that Meatloaf was dead or that Meatloaf made it to 74? Sound off on the YouTube page. This morning's trivia. Cup of Tech Gumbo as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got Haggai Davis via the telephone for one more segment. Actually, before we get back to Haggai, because of the winter weather, we've been doing a series of updates this morning. Unofficially, I-110 might be reopened by now. I was looking at what's normally the Doppler window for our weather forecast, but it also doubles as our traffic window. And I could see 110 right by Government Street. And during that last break, I did see 3 cars on 110. I don't know if they got up there by going around barricades or if it has been reopened. We should hopefully have that announcement when we get to our top of the hour news. But that being said, we are still freezing right now. Haven't got any reports of iced over roads in Baton Rouge, but our surrounding areas, especially south of here, might be a little more susceptible, as it looks like they got a little more precipitation than we did. All right, Cup of Tech Gumbo rolling right along. We've been talking with Haggai Davis about 5G and its problems with the airports. But Haggai, I can't help but I don't want to harp on that because that'll all be sorted out. What I do want to talk about is if 5G is about to bother airports, then 5G is officially here. What does that mean for us?
Well, 5G they've been rolling out 5G across the country for quite some time. And when you get the C-band rolled out, when it gets really rolled out, instead of downloading, on your cell phone at, anywhere from 70 to maybe as much as 100 megs of throughput, you're going to download in the 500 megabits of throughput, or in depending on how close you are to a cell site, close up almost to a full gigabit of throughput. And so it's going to make your connectivity so much faster, so much better. And this is the technology that is going to help propel the self-driven cars, because when you reduce the latency of communication, the Internet of Things, vehicles and computers will be able to talk to one another that much quicker and make better decisions. So that's one of the big things that 5G is going to be doing as well, is making everything just communicate faster.
Is Wi-Fi going to become obsolete?
It's not going to become obsolete. It's going to change. You got the Wi-Fi version 5 is out right now. Wi-Fi 6 is in the process of being deployed. Currently, Wi-Fi, you get about 500 megabits of throughput, then Wi-Fi 6 is going to get you upwards of 20 gigabits of throughput. What's going to become obsolete is your blue wire on the wall, the Ethernet that's connecting you. That's what's going to eventually become obsolete.
Okay, well, like from a business perspective, if there's 5G available in the area, why would I be offering my customers free Wi-Fi? It's always been like a service, right? If I own, say, a coffee shop or a restaurant or something, I can log on to the Wi-Fi as opposed to dealing with the slow internet that's just out there in the world. And
I would tell you, don't log on to that coffee shop's Wi-Fi, period, because it's just not secure. Mm-hmm. Use your cell phone one way or another. Create a hotspot on your cell phone and do it that way.
With 5G, that'll make that so much more enticing.
It'll make it that much faster. Absolutely. So if you're wanting to watch a Netflix movie, you can download that Netflix movie in 30 seconds instead of 2 minutes.
Beautiful.
On 5G.
Beautiful. Got about 4 minutes before we get you out of here, and I appreciate you hanging out through. And again, get yourself better. There's a new bill that's going to make a federal case out of unreadable terms of service. This is not, I haven't seen this in the headlines a whole lot yet, but I can't help but think it will be, because it's going to be a number of things. It's going to be, first of all, much needed, also outlandish, and very much misunderstood.
That's right. The whole terms and conditions page that, no one reads. I mean, I actually try and read as much of them as I possibly can, just because I think they're ridiculous to read through. Mm-hmm. John Oliver, he's quoted as saying Apple could put the entire text of Mein Kampf inside the iTunes user agreement, and everyone would just agree to it, and there you are. You've just agreed to Mein Kampf because you have an Apple anything, and that's how ridiculous terms and conditions are. Some of them are, we've talked about it in the past. Candy Crush has 16,000 words in their terms and conditions page.
That's crazy.
And so a a representative from Massachusetts, Senator Bill Cassidy from here in Louisiana, and then another senator from New Mexico. They have gotten together, bipartisan, to come up with a bill that says you've got to come up with a summary that people are going to be able to read. You don't have to have graduated law school and to understand, because I would tell you, in my guess, half the people who have graduated from law schools still can't understand most of these terms and conditions because they're so ridiculous.
Okay, they could be ridiculous, but at the same time, though, are they necessary for CYA? Are they necessary for what these providers are providing to cover themselves if they get sued?
They really are not. I mean, because you're not. It's not like you're signing a contract. I mean, you're agreeing to these terms and these conditions because some group of lawyers got around and said, "Hey, we've got to cover ourselves. We got to cover ourselves." At least when we're collecting all this data, when we're selling all of your data, you agreed to allow us to do that. And so if you just had a one paragraph or two paragraphs says, "Look, when you come to Google, we're gonna scrape every bit of data about you, and we're gonna sell your profile as far as advertising before you go and do everything." So, or if you come to Facebook, we're gonna know everything about you. Every time you take one of these goofy little quizzes, that's gonna help us sell more advertising. So, if you understand that, then go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up with, following the law of unintended consequences, we're going to end up with something worse than what we have.
Oh, there's no way this goes anywhere.
Yeah.
The lobbyists will kill this because the lobbyists are all lawyers, and so the lawyers got to protect themselves. And sorry, Troy. They're going. There's no way this has any kind of legs.
Tech Gumbo coming your way. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Tech Gumbo coming your way Saturday and Sunday at 4 and anywhere on demand. He is Haggai Davis, who will hopefully be back in studio next week. Get yourself better, brother.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. CBS News coming your way. Rich. Yeah. That thing's a freaking beast, man.
Good?
I'm good. A little drinking problem?
No, I got the white shirt on and a drop of coffee landed on it, so I went in the
You
bathroom.
gotta overdo it.
Got me a little hand towel, just wiped it off a little bit.
Okay.
What's up, dude?
Nothing much. You feeling better?
Coach, his wisdom teeth just killing me, man. They got to keep packing it every day. Pack it every day. Because they say, like, my age, because you jaw out a whole bit, it gets infected easy, dry socket. It's a bitch.
Yeah.
It's just a bitch, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I got kids in Portland and up north eating in 35-degree weather outside, kindergartners, for social distancing.
You could be that
Let me
guy.
ask you something. Yeah. In 12 years at St. Stephen's, right? Or, 8 until I went to De La Salle. Never one day did we not have to go to school. Not one day.
I know.
And you can't tell me in 12 years
Hey,
in New Orleans
look,
there wasn't
no,
one
hey.
day when a little sleep was coming.
Back in my day.
It's true. They put pressure on these parents once again. It's an absolute joke. It's a joke. Kids are not going to school. That's ridiculous. It is, big.
So for today's scenario, I agree with you completely, but you err to the side of caution. Back in your day, parents weren't going to sue schools if their kid had to stand out in 32-degree weather with
we
sleet
got
flying
sissy
around.
adults raising sissy kids. We're going to turn into be sissy adults raising sissy kids, and it's going to continue and continue.
Right.
It is.
Right. No, I mean, I want kids standing waiting for a school bus in 30-degree weather with sleet hitting them in the face. I want a higher mortality rate for our school children. These kids, they don't, I mean, unless like 5 or 6 of the kids in your class die off before 5th grade, you don't really know life. What? Wait. This year's 2022, so minus 15 would be 2007.
Coach, when we got pelted with snowballs at Soldier Field.
Oh, shit.
That was just brutal.
Bro, okay.
Brutal.
Chris and I were in Washington, D.C. on vacation. We watched that game, and so there's the ESPN zone, and the line was down the street for that. So we went across the street from the ESPN zone to like this little local dive. Turned out that it was like a local sports bar. Turned out that's where all the Bears fans in DC were. I mean, it was just
It's the only
awful.
time in my life I was ever scared in public.
Really?
Because at the end of the game, all the Saints fans kind of gathered up that were in that area of the stadium and walked out together. You had to.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to block snowballs hitting women and shit.
Right.
Well, the further you walk back to your hotel or whatever, well, guess what? These Saints fans went that way. So eventually, it was just you and your son.
Right.
And man, I'm telling you, like all the reports, it was worse than that. Because like when I got back that next day, WWL was talking about it, how they were getting feedback from all the Saints fans. It was scary, man. It really was.
Bears fans are the worst. I mean, they're the absolute worst.
Well, I'm sure everybody's got an experience at some NBA arena, whatever. But that was just brutal, man. It was just.
What a crap game too. I gotta. Oh, they're good.
good?
Yeah,
All good.
yeah. Yours?
Yeah, man. All good, man.
The
Brian's coming home from Chicago today to go, just be in some wedding over the weekend. They all good.
awesome. Well, tell him I said hello. Hey, Rich, I got a story about that Washington D.C. trip and the day of the Saints game that I can't tell while we're.
Okay.
It's funny though.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I gotta hear it, man.
Hey, actually, kill the mics for 1 sec.
Complete collision.
Okay.
You already did Matherns, right?
No, I did not. Yeah. Seven oh 706 Talk 1073 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Thanks again to Haggai Davis for popping in for a cup of tech gumbo. Haggai on the mend from the COVIDs. And he will hopefully be back at studio next week. If you're watching during the break, Condon popped in studio, as he does so often. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, check it out on YouTube. There's more show than meets the eye. Condon popped in the break with one of those back in my day. I don't know where I'm at on that. When I was growing up, we never stayed home when it got cold outside. I mean, I get it. But don't we all move from, we err to the side of caution with just about everything? A lot more so now than ever before. Like, can you imagine if a kid who has to stand on the side of the road waiting for a school bus, he's out there, I don't know, 5:45 in the morning, and all of a sudden it starts sleeting, and now that kid is ends up in the hospital or something because he catches pneumonia. Then the lawsuits come. If you're the school, is it easier to take on the lawsuit, or is it easier to say, yeah, we're going to grow you tough? And then when it plays out the way it plays out, where I didn't see any sleet. You see any sleet? I didn't see any sleet. I'm getting texts about how stupid it was to close I-110. Like, once it plays out the way it does, you can't retroactively go back and say, yeah, we should have been open, or yeah, we're going to shift on the fly and open up immediately. I don't know. So they err to the side of caution. It's one of those ones where you end up asking a question, are you really mad that it didn't get as bad as it could have been? Like, the plans were made based off of the worst case scenario. It didn't get anywhere near that. Most schools in the area, in the entire listening area, most schools are closed today, if not virtual. Check with your school to find out what's going on with your school. City parish offices in Baton Rouge will open up at 10 a.m. Did not receive any word from the state as to whether, did not receive any word from the Division of Administration as to whether or not those offices will be opened up today. Going to get you to top stories and trending in just a second, but got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. Yes, it's cold outside. I'm still going to send you to their freezer. Why? Because the weekend is upon us, and after this week, I don't know about you, I can go for a couple of cold ones. The beer selection at Mathern's is phenomenal. Now, I want to plant the seed in your head now for what's coming in a few weeks. Omicron variant is going to fall to the wayside. Parade season is going to open up. We'll all have fresh immunity in our bodies as we hit the parade route to see Orion, to see Artemis, to see Spanish Town or South Downs, or head on down to New Orleans. Grab a couple cold beers on your way. Grab a couple of IPAs. Grab a couple of lagers. The beer selection of Mathern's is top-notch. I'll put it up with anybody else's in town. And if you need a recommendation, they're there for you. And, oh, by the way, if you're hitting a parade, that means it's carnival time. And if it's carnival time, grab yourself a king cake. Grab yourself two. They've got them all there at Mathern's, both locations, downtown on 3rd Street or the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It's right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Nicholson at Skip Berman Drive. Mathern's Markets, your Mardi Gras headquarters. Unofficially, I just named them that, your Mardi Gras headquarters. All right, top stories and trending. Let's roll. It looks like I-110's reopening. Right now I'm seeing more and more cars on I-110 outside the window. So that closure is now done. I can also tell you, per our news partners at WBRZ, emergency efforts to put out a fire in Baker this morning shut down Highway 19. Baker Fire Department responded to reports of a fire around 6 a.m. in the 1900 block of Raifmeyer Road. Police Chief Carl Dunn says the department needed more water, had to run a line across Highway 19, so they had to shut the highway down. A woman was robbed at gunpoint yesterday morning in the parking lot of a student housing complex near LSU. The victim was attacked at the Legacy Apartments on Burbank Drive around 9 a.m. Sheriff's Office suspects that the same individual stole a vehicle in Ascension Parish and dumped that car outside the apartment complex near LSU before Thursday's robbery. City parish government buildings throughout East Baton Rouge will open late today due to potential hazardous weather conditions this morning. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome announced that everything will open up at 10 a.m. The city parish will continue to closely monitor the weather. Motorists are encouraged to use caution and drive slowly during the morning hours as icy road conditions are forecast. They are monitoring. We've been in touch with a number of them. In fact, we'll have Fred Raiford on in our next segment with the absolute latest. Good job with the preparation this time around, but it's one of those ones where, fortunately, it won't be won't be as needed as we might have thought. A longtime Baton Rouge Fire Department employee shot a burglar trying to break into his truck on Tuesday. The shooting was reported around 11:45 a.m. on Eddie Robinson Drive. Baton Rouge Fire Department said Chief Fire Investigator Daryl Sanders confronted a nude man who was trying to break into his department vehicle. Suspect was shot during the confrontation and taken to a hospital. The fire department says Sanders, who's been with the department since 1991, was on duty at the time and has been placed on administrative leave. BRPD is investigating the incident. Oh, December's numbers are in when it comes to sports betting. Nearly $39.5 million was wagered at Louisiana state licensed casinos in December, the second full month of legalized sports betting. Timothy Boone at The Advocate reporting the 11 riverboat casinos, racinos, and Harrah's land-based casino licensed for sports betting recorded net proceeds of nearly $4.4 million, according to the figures released by the Louisiana Gaming Control Board. In comparison, more than $56.8 million was wagered at more than 24 sports books in Mississippi during December, with the properties bringing in revenues of $3.2 million. The 8 sports books that were operating in November reported $27.6 million in wagers, revenues nearly $5.7 million. That number's going to go through the roof as soon as mobilized betting is up. Let's get it done. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Jazz Fest's lineup is out. Organizer Quint Davis has released the Jazz Fest lineup for the 2022 festival. It'll be headlined by performers like The Who, Stevie Nicks, The Foo Fighters, Jimmy Buffett, and Willie Nelson. Jazz Fest 2020, Black Crowes, I believe, is in there. Jazz Fest 2022 is scheduled for April 29th through May 8th. Big news seeing Jazz Fest coming back in a big way. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll get an update from Fred Raiford on the preparations that went into this, as well as how it's playing out. And we'll talk with Kurt Monty from the Baton Rouge Fire Department as well next. Is that Fred or Kurt? Okay. Yeah, we're going to have 2 on. So what I'm going to do is like 5 minutes with one, 5 minutes with the other. So I'm glad Fred's on first. There's Kurt. Yeah, I'm going to leave him on hold for the first part of this. So, yeah, I get the frustration. Erring on the side of caution is why we have safe spaces at college now. That's funny. I get you. I get you, but you still have to. If a guy drives off of 110 because he hits a patch of ice, like, that's a death that didn't have to happen. That's a pileup of cars that didn't have to happen. It's that easily avoidable. Are we really that inconvenienced by 110 shutting down? Just once. I would like to see everyone's reaction. Say what? Winter weather updates from Fred Raiford and Kurt Monty, or from the city parish and Baton Rouge Fire Department. CURTMONTE. Uh-oh. I got friends that are up to some shenanigans this morning. Okay. Man, my headache went away. I wasn't telling anybody about that earlier. I started the show with a headache this morning. It's weird. .717 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So as it stands right now, we're still at 32 degrees and cloudy in Baton Rouge. Did not get near the precipitation that we thought we were going to get, or that we were forecasted to get. As this forecast evolved, we had Dr. Josh Eachus on the other day. He said it's probably not going to be much if we see anything, but the surrounding areas, low-lying areas, might see more. The further south you went, the more likely you were to see precipitation. Nonetheless, precautions were taken in a very upfront and proactive way. Joining us now to talk about what went into it and where we are right now is Fred Raiford with the Department of Public Works. Fred, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Brian. How about you?
Doing all right. Are you out in this cold right now?
Oh, I've been out since about 4.
Oh,
I mean,
gracious.
you know, when we try to do this, we want to be sure we try to do as many steps and the processes that we have to follow, and trying to be sure that we're trying to keep our streets that can be open as safely as possible.
Let's start. We'll get to the steps that y'all took ahead of time in a minute. Let's start with where we are right now. Are there any major road closures in East Baton Rouge Parish?
No, Brian, and I'm glad to be able to say that, because, you know, we were concerned about the type of weather conditions that we've had, and after talking to our 3 weather groups that we deal with, the stations and stuff like that, we felt a little at ease. But, you know, you can never make assumptions, and you have to be prepared, and I think that's what we have done.
So no major road closures right now. We didn't really get any precipitation in Baton Rouge, at least not that I'd seen reported throughout. So we dodged a bullet in that regard.
Yeah.
So let's back up the clock a little bit to the preparations that went into this. What did your crew get on this time?
Well, you know, my department oversees a lot of the bridges and things that we have to deal with, the elevated structures, and certainly while we didn't have any closures today, you know, but, you know, what we look at this is that we learn from every event that we have, from practicing what we need to do and how we have to do it. So I think that's good. But in reality, from the weather standpoint, we were a little concerned about early morning having some mist and maybe some areas that may have been a little iced, but I think we've been fortunate, and we made it through this time.
Fred Raiford with Department of Public Works is our guest. We're talking about the preparations that went into this. I saw a number of, and I know y'all don't usually react to the criticism online or on social media or whatever, but some folks were saying that why put out all the sand or you know, all the preparatory matters ahead of time if rain would just wash it away? How much does that balance into y'all's prep work to know, okay, we could do this now, we're just going to have to do it over again later?
Well, it never lasts forever, Brian, but certainly what we try to do is we like to have it in place before the rain comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly if you have a heavy rain, we'll have problems with dealing with the bridges, particularly if they're wanting to ice over. But if you can get there beforehand as much as possible on your major roadways or your overpasses, it certainly enhances the possibility of not freezing. And I think that's what our job is supposed to be, and try to address and keep our roads as open as much as possible. You're not going to be able to do every bridge or overpass, because I know we have about 280 bridges in East Baton Rouge Parish. So we want to try to keep our major roadways open as much as possible, and we do things in advance to try to address that. Heavy rains, it doesn't matter. Yes, at some point the sand will wash off, and so will the salt. But if you can have some of that and have it prepared and have a light rain and it's in place, certainly it's to our advantage all the time.
That's actually a better answer than I thought. I thought you were going to go with the window with which we would be below freezing was not going to be long enough for it to wash away and then present a problem on the back end of it as well, because this was going to be a very short window that we were below 32.
Yeah, and we knew that also, because they wasn't really projecting a real hard freeze, but you know, that all depends on what part of the parish you're at, how much traffic is driving on the roadway or the elevated structures at a time. You know, and particularly in the north part of the parish, you don't have that heavy traffic like you may have down in the southern part of the parish, where cars are constantly driving over it over the period of day and night.
Yeah.
But that being said, our job is to try to be, to be responsive and try to address the issues as best as possible. And I think, as I said earlier, this was a learning experience again of things that we didn't do or should do better. And I think I'm all for that, because I want to be sure that we do the things right to protect our motoring public.
Well, yeah, you're darned if you do and darned if you don't, right? I mean, a lot of the things that people complained about last February, y'all remedied this time around, and then, you're going to hear from me either way.
Well, that the public has a right to have to voice their concerns. I understand that, and I appreciate that. We're going to do what we believe is the right thing for the people of our parish, because I think that's what we're responsible for doing. It's not always ideal, Brian, and you know that as well as I do. And sometimes you got to make some decisions that are going to be going to cause some people to be very frustrated. But the overall goal is not to make them frustrated; it's to try to produce and protect the public in general. And I think that's what our job is. And quite frankly, good and bad, sometimes I think we do a very good job of addressing that.
Couldn't agree more. He is Fred Raiford. I appreciate the time this morning. You try to keep yourself as warm as possible, sir.
I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you very much for having me.
Always, thank you. It's an open flow of information, and yeah, it's so the disastrous weather. I don't know, that's a stretch. The weather we thought we were going to get wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. However, we're not done with the cold yet, which means we're not done with the space heaters and the fires and everything else that goes into it. So, joining us now from the Baton Rouge Fire Department is Kurt Monty. And, Kurt, it's about time to shift the gear to safety. How are you?
Doing good, Brian. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing all right. What are y'all? Have y'all gotten an increased number of calls already, or are you bracing yourselves for them?
No, I mean, we had a small house fire on North 20th last night. We don't believe that it was heat-related, or heating-related, I should say. We are working a fire with Baker, Zachary, Central, and some other departments on Raiford Road right now. It's a warehouse that's burning. Mm-hmm. They are in a defensive attack, which means they're not sending firefighters into the building anymore.
Oh, my.
But it's a pretty large fire. We do have our hazmat team on scene. They're not picking up any kind of readings. There should not be any kind of hazardous materials in the building outside of normal combustibles. But they're still in the process of working that scene right now.
So this is one that we actually just reported on from a traffic standpoint. This fire actually has Highway 19 closed down as they got to go across the street to get to a water source. The way you're describing it makes it sound like this is going to be a prolonged process.
Absolutely, yes. They can expect to be out there for several more hours, and 19 is shut down, so we do ask people to avoid the area.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And Baker schools aren't in today, so hopefully that'll lessen the amount of traffic that needs to get through there anyway. Let's talk about prep work for what we can expect overnight tonight. Overnight low tonight is supposed to get down to 25. Tomorrow night, all the way down to 23. This is about the time where we do see people get lax with their security, with their safety when it comes to fire.
Yeah, and first and foremost, check the smoke detectors. Make sure you have them. Have your family know what they sound like, especially small children. If they've never heard the alarm go off, they may not recognize that in the middle of the night. So you should practice that with your family. Set those detectors off. Practice your escape plans and learn your meeting place. It's extremely important. Just in the past week, we've seen across the state a couple of fires that have taken life, and some of those have been children. So it's important for us to practice those things in our home and don't get complacent, because fire can happen at any time and it can happen to anyone.
Some of the triggers that normally that you see normally starting fires around this time, I assume space heaters are probably the biggest culprit?
Yeah, space heaters are a huge problem. You want to make sure that you have 3 feet around that space heater of anything that can burn, any type of combustible, that's curtains or couches or bed linens, anything like that. You want to keep your children and your pets free and away from those. If you leave the room, shut them off. When you go to bed at night, you shouldn't run them while you're asleep. I know that sounds like, well, what do I do? If it gets cold, but It's really a problem that we see with those space heaters. They're dangerous appliance when not used properly. You want to try to purchase one if you haven't already that has a automatic shut-off if it's accidentally knocked over, and you plug them straight into the wall. Many times we see people or problems where folks will plug them into extension cords or those power surge, those outlets. Those appliances need to be plugged directly into the wall.
The 3 feet around, that 3-foot perimeter. If you've got a space heater placed on carpet, are you automatically violating that 3-foot perimeter?
Yeah, carpet, anything that'll burn, that's a combustible. So you want to try to find a place in your home that doesn't have that kind of carpeting or things like that you could set that space heater on. And you don't want it in a high-traffic area where people walk through that can easily be knocked over and things like that.
As far as when they get knocked over, the automatic kill switch, do they even make space heaters anymore that doesn't have that?
I don't think so, Brian, but, I can tell you that we go in homes, and I probably still have one in my home from when I was a child. So people have appliances that they probably need to be replaced. That's something that's a good point for people to think about. You might want to go out and see what the newer technology is, and if you're able to purchase one and you're in need of one, you want to get one that has that shut-off feature.
Yeah, there's still plenty of them out there. You've seen firsthand the one I've got in studios, like left over from the Korean War.
Right.
So, as far as space heaters being one thing, what are a few of the other ones that are the regular culprits at a time like this?
So, fireplaces, hopefully by now we've been pushing that message, all week long, and even prior to this event coming up. Hopefully by now people have had those inspected by a service professional, cleaned properly. You want to have a screen in front of them to where any kind of embers that pop or come off, that screen will catch them before they get out of that confined area. You want to make sure that they're out completely before you go to bed. You don't want to leave them free burning when no one's in the room or no one's watching that appliance too, the fireplace. Also, your heating systems, you want to make sure that those are inspected. We've been pushing that, so hopefully by now folks have kind of heed that warning and had those professionals come out and check those appliances out.
He is Kurt Monty with the Baton Rouge Fire Department. You stay warm, you stay safe, and hopefully everyone heeds those warnings this time around.
All right, Brian, we appreciate y'all getting the message out.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Kurt Monty with the Baton Rouge Fire Department. As we see it every time, and we're going to see it again this time. I mean, there's a few more that he didn't even get into. People like using their stoves as a heating source. The garbage can fire in an abandoned building. You know the list. Anyway, all right, we're going to step away from the weather part of this show and talk about something that I've been talking about a little bit for the past, 2 weeks now. It's still coming up, though. We got a ways to go before we get here. Louisiana is in a workforce crisis. The folks at Hope Ministries are stepping up, want to present to you a little something called Rise LA. What is it? Who's involved? How can you get involved? Stick around. We're talking about it next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. After we check news, we'll start with CBS before getting local. We'll go news, traffic, weather, then Rise LA coming your way next. Good morning. How are y'all? Yep. This thing is a beast. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
Well, it's a little close to that box right there, it seems like.
Do what?
It's a little close to that box. Where do you want us to go?
Right here. And I will swing this one around. And I think all of our communication has been phone and email. So I'm Brian.
I'm Janet. We've met before.
We've met before. Tell me when.
Last year I was on.
About the same thing?
Well,
okay.
Sort of. It was about our workforce
Y'all got off
initiative.
track. That's why we have this.
Yeah. Well, but also our event got postponed.
It did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I was in the studio.
Everything since COVID has started has been just a
fog.
fog.
I understand completely.
Yeah.
So are we on here? Is that
Here and here, yes.
Okay. And I also came in when Bill was still here, and you were doing the producing
Okay. Wow.
several times.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Janet's going to do most of the talking.
Well, we'll be playing off each other.
Case.
My grandkids have COVID.
Oh, no.
They're doing
Sick or
fine.
just infected?
They just tested positive. Now, one of them started having symptoms, but the one that originally tested positive, she's fine.
Yeah.
Has no symptoms.
We all had it over New Year's, my whole house.
We did not get tested. I'd be shocked if we didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was one of those ones where we were naturally going to be quarantined for, what, 5 or 6 days?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not wasting our time with this.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
just,
Yeah.
I'm the only one in our family that actually did an at-home test.
my sister-in-law got married on Christmas Eve, or New Year's Eve. So,
Oh, wow.
from there till the back end of the holiday, so it just felt a little groggy. It's like, but, so the symptoms of COVID are life. Like, just
Yeah.
tired after a long day, you got COVID, you know?
Yeah,
It's-
exactly. That's exactly right.
This one was a bad sinus
harder
infection
for you,
me.
yeah.
It was
Mhm.
harder than the first, because I got it a year ago.
Well, and sinuses weren't a problem for the first 4
Mhm.
variants or whatever.
Right.
Right.
So this time it's like, hey, let's throw sinuses in there. It's
The
like,
first time I just wanted to sleep for a week. This time
So-
I had,
I did test positive for it Thanksgiving of 2020. My wife and I both tested positive for it. And she insists that I gave it to her, but maybe not. Anyway, that was the extent of our symptoms. We slept through Thanksgiving Day and slept through Black Friday, and then it was over. It was
Wow.
like I physically could not pull myself out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, I mean, I got 3 jobs and 3 kids. Like, I don't know how much of that was my body
Right.
saying you can
You
rest
shut
now.
down. Mm-hmm.
Keep your ass in bed.
Right.
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 So,
yeah.
but very fortunate though.
How old are your kids?
14, 9, and 5.
So they were kind of able to take care of themselves.
Yeah,
sort of.
we
Mhm.
moved them all upstairs, so we were separated.
Right.
So that the at that time the quarantine times were really jacked up.
10 days or longer.
It was
14 days.
until
at the
the week
beginning.
we got it. Like, we were 4 days into a 14-day quarantine. That's when the CDC reduced it
Because
down to
remember, I
10.
got it the week after that, and I came back to work after 10 days, and everybody at work was like, no, go home.
Go check your email. The
Well, now it's down to 5. And what I read the other day was that the reason it's down to 5 is because the medical industry has said we've got to have our workers back.
Yeah.
So even if they're still
which
infected,
then opened it up to all essential workers. So now it's down to 5
Yeah.
unless Gary, the night manager, needs you to pull a double. Like,
Right.
that's
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
that kind of stuff. Just
Well, we're pretty sure we got it this time from my 15-year-old, so.
50.
I still
So-
haven't
My
tested
15-year-old.
positive. Period. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, it'll be in the outside in second. Freshman or sophomore?
Sophomore.
Where at?
Yeah, Part B.
Okay. My 14-year-old's a freshman at St. Joseph's Academy.
it's a great school.
Yeah. it
They're
is.
she's part of a program. She gets it's like $5 or something. She gets paid to take a test every week.
Oh, wow.
I know,
For what?
for COVID.
Oh, COVID test.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
That is
Yeah,
great.
that first week back after the holiday, we're like, maybe skip it. Maybe skip this one. So,
Do we need to speak right into the mic?
yes,
Or, okay.
I mean,
Okay. Thank you.
absolutely. 736 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. All right, so I've been telling you about Rise LA for a little while now, and I am more than happy to have Janet Simmons and Cheryl Lott in from Hope Ministries to talk about it, because they know a heck of a lot more than I do about it, and it's exciting to say the least, promising to be sure. Welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you. Doing very well.
Great.
Thank you.
Glad to have you all on here. Glad to be talking about this. Glad to see this event coming up, and I believe this can be a game changer. if it's implemented by 10 businesses, if it's implemented by 100, it could be a game changer within. And I think the results are going to show that you see results in one place, you're going to want to replicate them.
Right.
All right. Rise LA, what is it?
So Rise LA is a business and industry luncheon that we're hosting on March 22nd of this year at 11:30 at the Renaissance Hotel. And it is an opportunity for us to gather together industry leaders and learn from a known man named Fred Keller, who has been very successful in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with his business Cascade Engineering. And what he did was he implemented a welfare to career program in his business, and 850 of his employees actually got off of welfare and are leading self-sufficient, sustainable lives. And it's wonderful to see that. And we have duplicated that model here in Baton Rouge. And what we're doing is wanting to go all over the south part of Louisiana to encourage business and industry leaders to implement the same program within their company so that they can have stabilized employees. Their employees are more self-sufficient, and they increase their retention, and thus the bottom line.
The U.S. Census Bureau, I almost said CDC because everything's COVID. The U.S. Census Bureau just put out their list of the top 20 cities in the state, or cities and towns in the state, ranked off of poverty level. You'll hear more about this in the Outside In coming up in the next segment, but number one is Bastrop. Baton Rouge comes in at number 13 overall.
Not surprised.
Yeah, with an alarming number of people living below the poverty line. And even more alarming than that is the number of those people who are both living below the poverty line and employed.
Correct.
Yeah. So, Brian, 51% of Louisianians fall into the United Way's ALICE category or below, or
Okay.
poverty. So 51% of our workforce is in this category.
Yeah.
And they really, really struggle to hold a job. And as a result, they never get to climb up the ranks. They are always entering new jobs as a brand new entry-level, usually minimum wage employee, and which is going to hold them in poverty forever. So a program, if employers are willing to come together and work on strategies within their companies to better serve those employees while better training them, their production is going to go up. The employees are going to stay longer. When they've been there for longer, they're going to have the opportunities to move up.
Yes.
And get their families out of poverty.
Now, is this all about moving up within the corporate ranks, or is there some kind of financial literacy aspect of this outside of it?
So we provide one-on-one coaching for employees of corporate clients, but we also do training for their managers and executive levels, because it's really important for the executive level and the mid-level managers to understand the challenges that their employees are facing and start to understand the behaviors and all of the things that go with having that particular population of employees. So we can help corporations increase their level of understanding their employees and also do one-on-one coaching, financial coaching and whatnot for their frontliners.
We're going to get into Fred Keller's story in just a little bit, but which I did some background on him. He's amazing. But I want to start with the Hope Ministries aspect of this. What put y'all on this path? What made this your mission?
Well, our mission is to prevent homelessness and promote self-sufficiency and dignity. And we know that the way that you promote self-sufficiency is through work. And that's the area that we're focused on most. So we have a division called The Way to Work, Sustainable Workforce Solutions. And we work with people that come in to Hope just off the street, or they're referred to us by other organizations. And we help them understand why they need to understand the essential skills that are needed for a job. And so we have a curriculum called Going Beyond, and I'm completely confused.
Okay.
Going Beyond Employees Achieving More. Apologize. And that curriculum goes through the 16 steps that employers have identified that their workforce have problems with. So particularly attitude or problem solving or time management. But we hit it at a level of the population that we're serving. So it's a workforce curriculum that's written at a language level that our constituents can understand.
Is the problem, and I know the problem, you're going to look at this from a holistic perspective, but I'm going to ask you to kind of dissect it piece by piece. When it comes to eradicating homelessness, is that more about finding jobs for people, keeping people in those jobs, other habits that would fall into this, that would be like drug use and the like, Or is there a matter of there aren't the jobs for people to find? Like, where within this are we?
Yeah, I don't think there aren't the jobs that people can find. There are definitely jobs out there, and we have quite a few employers of choice, companies that we've identified that will hire the people that we train and go through our program. And we also provide that one-on-one coaching so that they stick with the client even after they get employed to make sure that they're stable and they're doing the things that they're doing. But it's kind of a misnomer that people automatically attach drug use and alcohol use or other kind of illicit behaviors, whereas most people that are in poverty don't necessarily display those. It's other challenges that they have, like transportation, lack of driver's license. So more than 50% of the clients that we see don't have driver's license.
Interesting.
So that's a real challenge when you're trying to get to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. And we've also, go ahead.
Sorry. Brian, just to address one of the things you said, our coaches work with our client and with corporate clients when they're working with a corporation on everything, like all the pieces that you mentioned. We do financial coaching, helping them get their finances together, helping them create a plan to have a rainy day fund so when their car breaks down, they can get to work. They can get it fixed and stay employed. They work with them on their household issues, how to get their household
setting a budget,
so that how to set a budget, how to work with their time management with their children, even so that they can be better employees when they're at work.
These habits and traits sound remarkably familiar. Let me pause 1 second. Don't forget to check out Dave Ramsey 1 to 4 on Talk 107.3 FM. Back to it. These things they're all necessary.
Right.
But from a corporate standpoint, from a company standpoint, it's actually, I might be wrong with this, relatively a new concept to have that level of civic duty, that level of want to entertain the idea that it is everyone's problem, that you as a local business can help out. It would be very easy to say, you can help this person get out of poverty. Really not my problem. I want an employee who didn't have to be in poverty in the first place. It would be very easy to take that tact. It would be very easy to say, not my job to teach you a home budget or figure out how you're getting to and from work. All I care about is once you clock in and clock out. We're seeing a shift in the tide of the level of civic responsibility from businesses around here. How have you seen that grown, and how do we continue to capitalize on it to make sure that it's not just nurtured but rewarded?
Well, I think the climate of the last 2 years has really impacted that in business and industry, and they have to see that they have to take a more active role in providing those benefits for that particular level of employee, and also the whole DEI climate that's going on, the diversity, equity, and inclusion climate. And a lot of companies are seeing that they have to shift that model. And really, it's a benefit to them both financially and also community, civically wise, because it helps their bottom line and it helps the community.
Yeah, and Brian, we hear so much right now about recruiting talent. We hear it over and over and over, companies saying we're trying to get people to move to Louisiana, we're trying to get talent, and they're all looking at this upper-level talent. But the fact is the upper-level talent's not going to want to come to a city where crime is high, poverty is high, and where they can't handle their workforce. So it really does everyone good, including the business climate and the economy, whenever they take on this task and that they do their part to lift their own business up while lifting up the entire community.
It's the whole rising tide lifts all boats. It really does.
Rise LA.
Right.
Yep, exactly. Fred Keller, let's talk a little bit about his story and how y'all got involved with him.
It's amazing. Back in the 2000 era, he saw his retention rate go down to 34%. And if any business person knows that that's going to kill you, I mean, you're going to be bleeding cash and all kinds of money. And so he knew he had to do something. And so he instilled in his company training for his managers and supervisors, because that's where it starts. It starts with making sure that your managers and supervisors know who your population of employee is and that they understand the challenges and the behaviors. He also introduced a social worker that was with the state of Michigan to come and actually work there at his plant. And the social worker was able to provide those ancillary services for their employees. For example, let's say an employee was late and consecutively late. Instead of the the supervisor firing the employee, they would send the person to the social worker. The social worker would find out, why are you late, and then if necessary, we need to adjust your schedule or whatever it was that they could do to manage that person. Well, once they started doing all those things and they put incentives in place for their workers started staying. And he went from a 34% retention rate to a 97% retention rate. Like I said before, 850 of his employees got off of welfare. And right now they're just succeeding. This is a large plastic molding plant. Back when I went to visit them in 2012, they were a $365 million company. That's not small, it's not huge, but it's pretty decent size.
Yeah, it's enough to be able to replicate the model off
Right.
of and want to see it happen elsewhere. And no matter where you go, no matter what business you're in, one of the largest business expenses that every business runs into is new hire training.
Turnover,
Turnover,
cost.
new hire training.
Right.
It absolutely factors in, and it might seem like outside of the norm to say, I'm going to rise to this level of care, but it in the long run is cheaper to do it that way. So it's an amazing model. It's one that once you cross that threshold and realize there's so much more of a world open to you from a business perspective. Hey, forget about the employees for just a second. From a business perspective, you're open to so much more in this regard.
Right.
How has reception been to this so far?
Great. We've been meeting with leaders all across South Louisiana, and they're pumped up. We've got some focus groups coming up in Lafayette on February the 22nd in the morning. We've got 2, and then we've got 1 in Point Capee Parish, and we've got a bunch of leaders up there. We just moved in there. We have a new office in Point Capee Parish, and they're super pumped. And then we've got 4 focus groups in Baton Rouge on February the 23rd. Okay. And they're going to be 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon at Taylor Porter. And anybody who wants to come to the focus groups needs to sign up through the risela.biz website. And they can call us if they want to, 225-355-0702. That's 225-355-0702.
And Brian, the one thing about the focus groups, it's going to be for management and executives. We're talking small groups of 8 to 10, so you can really have time to get in there and have some good discussions together. Patty Phillips from the ROI Institute is going to be leading those. She is an internationally renowned researcher and author. She's the CEO of the ROI Institute. She's done lots of research and is continuing her research. She's working with us to continue doing research on how poverty affects the workforce and how that affects the ROI of the company as well as the entire community. And so she's going to be doing those focus groups to help that research, but in the process, these business leaders get the chance to pick her brain and to ask her questions and to really dive into what they believe the real issues are and begin to create strategies that work for their company.
Closing thoughts before we get out of here. We've got a minute left.
This is an event that's not going to be an event where you just come and listen to a speaker. This is an event that's a launching ground for us to launch into Louisiana businesses and really start doing the work after the event. So the event is just basically, the trampoline that's giving us that push off into getting into business and industry all through Louisiana, South Louisiana, all through Louisiana, and really make some changes here so that we can see the change of the collective change of how the poverty shift moves and how companies make the change for their employees and really make us have a better community. Louisiana is a great place to live, and it could be better than it is.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We see it every day, the poverty, the crime.
Right.
These are steps to remedying that, and it all starts with risela.biz. Risela.biz, the big event coming up in March with Fred Keller, but like you just heard, there are focus groups along the way as well. One more time, risela.biz, and the phone number is 225-355-0702. Thank you all so much for coming down today. I know it's cold out, so I appreciate you making your way down. Quick break, coming back with the Outside In next. 1 second.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
That was good.
Yeah, I was reading up on Cascade Engineering and what they do and everything, and Fred himself has a hell of a story.
He does.
So.
And we didn't get to say this morning. I was thinking about it, but then we ran out of time. But we've Peters, who is the CEO of Butterball Farms.
Oh.
And we brought him in 2016 as a speaker for the same business and industry luncheon. But we didn't have the foresight that Fred has. Like, Mark came in and did the speech and then left, and then the flood hit. So, I mean, you know, as soon as that hit, and shootings and all that happened right after he came. And so that was a bad year to try to launch this. But when we contacted Fred and said, hey, we want to bring you in as a speaker, he said, I will only do it if we can make this a community conversation rather than just me coming and speaking.
Right.
And we were like, yes, we like that. And so we're super pumped that that's his attitude about things. And really are excited about him coming in. So
It's. I mean, it is. The problems we're facing are stark.
they are.
And
Well,
like
and-
I report on crime every bleeping day.
Father G, who is another guy that we brought in, he's a Jesuit priest from LA. We brought him in as a speaker.
Yes.
This is his mantra. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. That's his quote. Nothing stops a bullet like a job.
You replace job with education and it applies there too. So that's.
Let's not even get started.
No. We're doing what we can. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right?
Yep. Right.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. See y'all later. We don't need to be
And look,
escorted
we'd
out,
love to
huh?
come back.
No, you're all good.
For a second thing at some point, just let us know.
About 2 weeks out, so there's still time to register, but like
Yeah.
to where it's
Weeks out from the focus groups or
from
the event?
March. I don't know. What do you think?
We'd love to come in. I don't know. What do you one more time before the focus group?
Could we do like a short focus group one and then come back in for the event?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me figure out how that would look.
Okay.
Just because like I don't normally chop my segments in half.
Right.
I do sometimes. though. I did the segment before y'all.
Okay.
So, but yeah, let me see how that would look. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
We got you.
All right. Thank you.
Brian.
Thank you. Can I call that the Rise LA read for the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
That should be more than sufficient.
Yeah.
You remember what you got, right?
Huh?
You remember what you have, right?
No.
Okay. We have Mathern's.
Did Mathern's.
Complete Collision.
Did not do complete collision.
And BR Mattress for this second.
Gotcha. Yes, BR mattress. I'll do complete collision next. Oh, 7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So, where we're at right now with the weather, you heard it from Fred Raiford earlier in the show. All roads in East Baton Rouge Parish are open right now. There are no closures as a result of the freeze, which we are still technically freezing, 32 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge right now, and it looks like we're going to stay at 32 for a couple more hours. Your high today is supposed to get up to 42, which doesn't sound like much, but if you got any of that precipitation, which not many of us did, but if you got any of that precipitation, it has a chance to evaporate or just if any of it froze, which I doubt very much if it did because we're only at 32 for a couple of hours. If any of it froze, well, it would have the chance to thaw, then evaporate. And then after this, we're done with the rain until we're done with the cold. Overnight low tonight, 25. Overnight low tomorrow night, 23. Overnight low Sunday is 30. We get up to a high of 57 on Monday, and that's when it starts raining again, which, incidentally, is going to cause us to kind of rinse, repeat, if you will, on the cold patterns that we've seen. Because next week, Wednesday night, we're getting down to 29 again. Anyway. Going to get you to the outside in just a second, but I do need to tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. They've got two locations. 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City and the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 in the southeastern portion of the parish. Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet has a lot going on right now. They've got sales going on they're pretty deep discounts. First of all, a twin gel memory foam mattress running for $149.99. The full, $199. Name brand queen size mattresses, normally $8.99, now down to $3.99. And I say name brand without naming a particular brand because it covers multiple brands. All the way down to $3.99 for the queen, $5.99 for the king. Mitch has got a deal going on right now for a California king, with the name brand mattress that would normally be $24.99 is now down to $9.99. That is while they last. I need to text Mitch and see if he's got any left. I shouldn't keep saying that unless I absolutely know, because he's had mattresses just flying out the door. 4065 Florida Boulevard or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Let's get you to the outside in. Starting off in West Baton Rouge Parish, where Gerald Peanut Pouchot has been arrested for the murder of his wife, Mary Pouchot. Deputies arrested Gerald Thursday morning, a little more than a month after he was featured on the Justice for Mary episodes of the Real Life, Real Crime podcast. Pouchot was booked into the West Baton Rouge Detention Center with second-degree murder and obstruction of justice charges. No bond has yet been set. Real Life, Real Crime podcast is hosted by Woody Overton. Woody will join us at 8:15 Monday to talk about this little journey. A juvenile suspect arrested in a string of burglaries in Point Capee Parish was among two teenage suspects that escaped a detention center Wednesday night. The Point Capee Sheriff's Office said the teens broke out of a facility in St. Martin Parish around 7 p.m. Wednesday. Sources told WBRZ one juvenile escapee, Demarion Simmons, was recently arrested for his role in a burglary ring highlighted by their investigative unit. Officials warn that Simmons is likely making his way back to Point Capee Parish. The other escapee is 16 years old, don't know his name. One of the escapees has gotten out of escaped from 3 different detention centers in 3 months. Closing out in Morehouse Parish, the U.S. Census Bureau has put out their latest list of towns and cities with the most poverty. In Louisiana, Bastrop is number 1, 46.9% of residents living below the poverty line. Natchitoches is second, Opelousas third, Ruston and Crowley rounding out that top 5. Here's CBS News. I need water. Never gonna run around and desert you.
Even though that song became a meme, I never got tired of it.
It's a great song.
It's a great song.
Rick Astley, underrated. Oh, I had to skip one story in the outside in. There's been a tire fire for a week in Avoyelles Parish. A week. A tire fire burning for 4 days in rural Avoyelles Parish prompted state corrections officials Thursday to relocate about 1,500 inmates from the nearby Raymond Laborde Correctional Center. This tire fire started on Sunday, and it's still going right now, and it's only 35% contained. Yeah.
Kaye brought me his, but he doesn't have the socket.
Oh, Kaye ain't got no socket. Bing bong. There you go.
You just got tight recently, didn't you? Looks good.
Huh? Last night.
Looks good.
Yeah. Thank you. A tire fire. I'm sure that smells good. See Avoyelles Parish. The way the cold air's blowing through, I don't think the wind's pushing through EBR, so we're good. All right, y'all. What's going on in the YouTuberies? I feel like I should give away something today. Oh, I need to forward you an email so you can have the picture for Steve Shippy. It's more than one tire that's been on fire. Who had it? 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 Okay. Okay. I did BR mattress. So, crap. Where did I get this story from? I'll find it. I'll find it. Next break. Next break. I haven't done completes collision yet. Yep. .805 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Welcome into what is a lot of folks' day off because of the weather. We were at 32 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. A lot of precautions were taken if things had gone sideways, if things had gone worse. We had Fred Raiford on last hour who has done a really good job of being out in front and taking a lot of preparatory steps. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Fortunately, we didn't need it. We didn't need it this time around. Fred reporting that all roads in East Baton Rouge Parish are open, so that's a good thing. A lot of folks, a lot of kids not having to go to school today or going virtually today. So that's less traffic on the roads to begin with. We did not get nearly the amount, if any, of precipitation that was forecast. A number of different outlets were giving different forecasts. Our own Dr. Josh Eaches, he's WBRZ's chief meteorologist. He was on with us, I believe, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday. And Josh was saying, this looks like it's going to turn out to be a whole lot of nothing. It looks like a lot of the rain is going to end up south of us if we get any at all. You're going to see more rain on Thursday before it freezes, and then once it freezes, very little precipitation, not enough to cause accumulation, not enough to cause broken tree limbs or that which would cause power outages or create havoc on the streets. So this has turned out to be a lot less dangerous than a lot of folks thought going in, but always err to the side of caution. Coming up this hour, we're going to talk with Steve Shippy in our next segment. Steve Shippy is the host of Shock Docs. This is a good one. So if you're not familiar with Shock Docs, it's on the Discovery Channel. They take a look at the real stories behind horror films. Ed Gein turns into Psycho, that sort of thing. What's the story behind Scream? There's a new Scream in movie theaters now. What's the story behind it? This one might hit a little closer to home than you think. The story wasn't just made up out of thin air. We're talking with Steve Shippy in our next segment. Also this hour, author Brad Taylor, longtime military career followed by a longtime career as an author. 16 novels under his belt, and the latest one is out now. You're going to love to hear about it. Going to get you to the outside. No, going to get you to the tops. No, going to get you to this day in history. It's like trying to name your kids when you're tired.
You're killing me, Small.
No, it's like, it's, come here, Carrie, Abby, James. How did I get James wrong? He's the only boy. It's like trying to name your kids when you're tired. Going to get you to that in just a minute. One name I don't forget, though, hashtag segue, the folks over at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations, one on Plank Road in Zachary, one on Perkins just east of Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. Certified by more than a dozen major manufacturers. What does that mean? It means the folks that make the cars say, take your car to Complete Collision to get it fixed. They know how to find hidden damage. They know the difference between repair and replace. And that's kind of a huge thing. The difference between repair and replace. There's a big difference between put a Band-Aid on it and needing surgery. And Complete Collision Center has more than a dozen major manufacturers saying, these guys know what they're doing. iCar Gold Class certification puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. A commitment to continuing education, a commitment to training, and a commitment to getting you and your family back onto the road safely. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898, or check them out online. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right, time for This Day in History. Let's... Huh?
Happy Friday to all those tuning in. As he mentioned, I'm Jake Barty. We're going to start pretty recent on this day in history.
Are we?
Not much happened prior to 1962, but you know what did happen on 1962?
Not much happened prior to the 1962.
Yeah, at least on this day.
All right.
Snow falls in San Francisco.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was worth it.
Boobity-bop-doo-bow. All right.
1986, 100 people participate in the nude Olympics race in Indiana. The temperature, 38 degrees.
Nude Olympics?
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Who's the guy with the javelin? I'd like to announce my resignation from wrestling.
Oh, God. I hate that. 1999.
You can't do that and not expect a response, Jake. Know your host.
That's why we're doing this segment, man. 1999, in one of the largest drug busts in American history, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepts a ship carrying 4,300 kilograms of cocaine.
Dadgum.
That's a lot. I can't imagine how much money that is.
What year was this?
99.
99?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. 90s were a crazy time, I guess.
The 80s were a crazy time.
Do you remember the 80s?
Yeah.
You're one of the few then. 2010, LA Lakers Kobe Bryant becomes the youngest NBA player to reach 25,000 career points at 31 years and 151 days. He beat Wilt Chamberlain's record by 35 days.
Youngest and 15th overall. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Mamba. 2019, Golden State guard Klay Thompson sets an NBA record by making his first 10 attempts from three-point range as the Warriors beat the Lakers 130 to 111. Thompson scored 44 points on this day.
Nice.
Got any for me before I get to the birthdays?
Not that I know of. I'm running behind today, so I might just interrupt you.
Sounds good. Let's get to the birthdays then. First things first, you may know him as Crazy Steve from Drake and Josh. Jerry Trainer.
I assure you
45.
I don't.
People my age probably would. Grigory Rasputin was born on this day in 1916.
Okay.
And finally, Hakeem Olajuwon turns 59 today. Got any birthdays?
I do.
Let's hear 'em.
Sheena Davis. You don't. Okay. Ever seen Beetlejuice?
Yes.
She was in Beetlejuice.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. You had Akeem Olajuwon. Did you have Jack Nicklaus?
I did not.
Okay, Jack Nicklaus.
birthday
And there
to him.
was, I know I had one more. Oh, a former New Orleans Saint, a former LSU Tiger, Dalton Hilliard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to a Louisiana legend right there.
Is Detlef Shrimp a big enough name?
It is now.
Okay.
Just because you said him.
Yeah.
He's now a big enough name. Only one death for me to report. George Orwell passed on this day in 1950.
Does Meatloaf count as today?
Does it?
I don't know.
It's up to you.
I mean, did he technically die today or yesterday? I don't know.
I actually don't know.
All right.
Let's go to the holidays real quick. I have a lot to talk about. Actually, every single one of the holidays on here I thought were worthy of making this list, and you'll know after I mention them.
No, yeah, I've seen two of them, so go ahead.
International Sweatpants Day.
Couldn't be more apropos. I almost wore sweatpants in today.
Exactly. I actually thought about it too.
The
Fridays?
sweatpant is kind of the perfect garment. I mean, like, sweatpants are to men what yoga pants are to women, except hopefully less revealing.
Unless you got it.
Wow. I mean, you cringed at my javelin joke. Don't even try to recoup. But, like, especially now that they can be tapered,
Yeah.
and they're more like athletic pants than
They have,
sweatpants.
they're like fitted at the bottoms of the ankles.
Yeah, there's a certain type of sweatpant that makes it look like you've just given up on life.
Yeah.
These aren't them.
No,
And yet
they're like
sti-
joggers.
They still, yes, and they still hold the same comfort and warmth.
I'm going to be celebrating that today. Actually, I'm going to be celebrating all of these. We got National Cheesy Socks Day, National Granola Bar Day, National Hugging Day, National Squirrel Appreciation Day,
1 second, please.
One-Liners Day, Own Your Own Home Day, and Playdate Day. You want to know how I'm celebrating all of these days? I'm going to be wearing sweatpants and cheesy socks. I'm going to be eating a granola bar, giving somebody a hug, while also appreciating a squirrel, delivering a one-liner, while being in a home that is currently owned on a playdate.
All right, we got to take a
that
break.
is
That is This Day in History. Coming back, we've got Steve Shippy up next. The latest shock docs is here. Scream the true story. This might hit a little close to home. Hey, can you make sure he's good to go and let him know we're going to be about 90 seconds? Can you make sure he's good to go and let him know we're going to be about 90 seconds? What's going on, Bo? Towers okay? We got no precipitation. We got little to no precipitation.
My paranoid, anxiety-ridden ass, obsessed with the weather maps.
Yeah.
And this morning, that was showing, like, covering us. I'm like, oh, damn, I made a mistake not turning down last night. It was a bad call. But the two apps I fought for all said we were going to have little to no precip with the freezing.
Right.
So I went with my gut and didn't do it.
Are you on Weather
when
Underground?
The whole time I'm showering and all that this morning, leaving the house, I'm like, oh, damn. I get outside, it's like dry. These motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Get on the road, dry.
Same.
All the way through here, dry. I'm like, what the hell? I go up, log into the transmitter. No, same forward power we always have, 32 watts. Look at the Eagle Tiger transmitter, 0 Viswar. Son of a bitch, I made the right call after all.
Excellence by apathy, right?
I stressed the hell out of it, but it was one of those things where, like, damn, do you go
I'm
turn
on
to
the front
30%
end.
power?
Huh? Oh, yeah. What's this guy's name? Alan Rommel. There it is.
Then I kept hearing, like, stuff like this. I was like, gee. They closed the 110 down?
Yeah.
I got stuck in that trying to get all the government.
So I'm having trouble, like, it was a dumb call, but if you are with the city parish government, do you know what kind of jackasses we are when it rains?
So this is what I dealt with last night in my mind about the towers. That same argument. How bad is it going to be? Do I need to make precautions, this or that? Damned if you do, and damned if you don't.
Well, yeah, not shutting down 110 would have been like saying, I'm not going to have a retirement. I'm just going to play the lottery really heavy the last year I worked. It's a terrible idea, Bo.
Again, handling Buddy in,
Oh, the one where he's sitting at the table.
in college. It's got to hit.
It's due. My favorite is It's Due. I'm so due. .817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We are running 2 minutes behind, so I don't want to waste any time at all. Got to get Steve Shippy on with us because the latest Shock Docs is out. Look, if you've been listening to the show for any period of time, you know every time a new one of these pops, I'm all over it. These are the real stories behind the horror films you watch. This time around, it's Scream, the true story. Steve, welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, glad to have you back on again. Glad to be talking about this because you've yet to miss so far. I mean, they've all been home runs, and they're available on Discovery Plus. They're streaming right now, the latest one included. So, Scream, what's the true story behind it?
Okay, yeah, a lot of people wonder what is the parallel between, Scream and Danny Rolling, the Gainesville Ripper. Okay, so Danny Rolling grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana. He murdered 3 people there, took off, went on the run. For reasons unknown, he fled to Gainesville, Florida. He was homeless at the time. He was hiding. He was living in the woods. Now, by night, Danny would go out and stalk his victims and do his grisly crimes. And here's where the parallel really comes in. So he was targeting college-age women. Of course, Gainesville is a huge university town. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, there was no suspect, no description, no vehicle, nothing. So rumors were running rampant on campus. Who could it be? People were thinking it has to be a fellow student. And then people thought, well, maybe it's a professor. And then there was a rumor that really terrified people, thinking it was a pizza delivery person, delivering to the campus and being able to see who's there, choosing a victim. Are they home alone? So it was this growing sense of fear and paranoia. And when you really look at that story and you compare it to the screenplay Scream, you can certainly see it there. And in fact, they even the writers even admit that was the initial inspiration.
Well, it's not that far of a leap to go from, and no spoilers from the original Scream, but it's not that far of a leap to go from the theories behind who was doing this versus who was actually doing it in the movie Scream. That was one of the theories, a fellow student.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, you don't have to give us the primer on the University of Florida by any stretch. I mean, you're on in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now. Tigers versus Gators is one of the most hated rivalries around. So, but also you are on in Louisiana. So let's start with the Shreveport end of this. How much of the story is involved with Shreveport?
Quite a bit, actually. When you see the documentary Scream, the True Story, of course, we start off in Gainesville, but I would say well over half of it. Our investigation in Gainesville quickly led us to go full circle. We needed to go to Danny's hometown of Shreveport and try to find out what really happened, go back to his childhood. That being said, we wanted to go to his childhood home. We had no idea if the current owner would let us in, if they would interview with us. We get there, and Sheila Jackson is the current owner. Come to find out, she and her family are experiencing a vicious haunting. They're talking about being attacked almost nightly in their sleep, choked, pinched, pushed, things being thrown around the house, just complete chaos. And she was asking us for help. And one thing I just want to tell you that was so... It was that moment when you just get that chill, and I said to her, so did you buy the house directly from the Rolling family, from Danny Rolling's father? Yes. So she's been the current owner since. And I said, well, how much activity's been going on this whole time? When did it start? Well, it didn't start till around Thanksgiving of 2006. So that moment for me was so definitive because Danny was executed only a couple of weeks earlier. And then all of this chaos begins happening at the house, so one has to wonder, did his spirit return home?
I mean, yeah, that timeline, as I'm reading the notes, as soon as you said 2006, he was eventually convicted and executed in 06. That opens up so many questions.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the paranormal into this, are we more Shreveport or are we more Gainesville?
Definitely more Shreveport.
Okay. And are there other locations other than just his home?
Yeah, we in Gainesville, Florida, we investigated the campsite where Danny was, hidden for weeks, where he would go out, do his murders, bring back his, I hate to call it souvenirs, but all of that stuff, his hiding spot, we investigated there, and then the entire focus became his home, his hometown, and of course his childhood home, because our mission then became we have to help this woman and her family, and that's where all of our focus went.
What were the reports of the activity in the home in Shreveport? What kind of activity were we looking at?
Sure, there was multiple physical attacks, cold spots, pounding on the wall, dishes being picked up and thrown across the room, as well as other objects. At some point, they would say that they felt that something was trying to hold them down in the bed, and even at some points choking them. Voices, just a gamut of different things. And another thing that was so disturbing about being in his childhood home, there was an incident that happened where Danny Rolling, the Gainesville Ripper, actually shot his father twice in the kitchen. And of course, I knew that information prior to going in, but Sheila Jackson, the current owner, said, "Well, Steve, look up right here at this cabinet." So I look up at the kitchen cabinet, and plain as day, the bullet hole is still there from the shooting. Still there.
Wow. This one really, it piqued my curiosity. Well, number one, because like I said, you've yet to miss. Number two, it's a local tie with Shreveport. But number three, the recency of it is playing into this as well. I mean, 2022, yes, I realize 2006, we're getting distance from that. But this isn't like let's say what you did with Ed Gein. This isn't like that. There's a lot more. There's a lot less time spent between then and now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this investigation was, it was one of the most incredible investigations I've ever been on. The activity that happened in Shreveport, the evidence that we captured the caliber was, almost second to none. And I guess, not to give away too much, but things got so dark and out of hand that we had to call in, someone to really help out and perform something that could drive the evil out of the house for the family's sake. I mean, that's how bad it got.
Oh, wow. As far as other interviews that went into this, what kind of spectrum was this guy? What kind of range of contacts did this guy have that y'all were able to connect with?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing that we wanted to do is, we wanted to let the victims' families, continue to try to heal from this. We didn't want to engage with them and stay away from that territory. What we wanted to focus on was more Danny as an individual himself, his upbringing. Was there really a supernatural element to what he was doing? Because Danny, claimed to be under demonic influence. He claimed that in court, and he was claiming that even before he was caught. We have hundreds of audio tapes that he recorded these diaries, if you will, when he was in that campsite, and he was claiming well before he was caught that he was possessed. It was out of his control, and so we were trying to look into any validity of that. Two of the main interviews, most notable, were the prosecuting attorney of the case and Sandra London, which was actually Danny's fiance.
Oh, wow. Very cool stuff. So it's streaming right now, Scream the True Story. And this one, like we said, does hit home in a number of ways. Number one, from Shreveport. Number two, going to Gainesville, Florida, who we're very, very familiar with over there. Stacking this one up compared to some of the other shock docs that have been out there and the Haunting in the Heartland and everything else that you've been creating recently, have you found this one to be a harder path to follow, easier path to follow? I would imagine the time frame makes it a little bit easier. But in accumulating information, that which is more recent probably has less lore behind it as well.
Yeah, it was a little more easier to follow in the sense that everything could be more thoroughly documented, whereas a case like Ed Gein, reaches back to the 50s, so a lot of things are lost, and there's significantly less people to interview that would have known the individual. But again, I mean, the amount of activity, the amount of things that we captured, this is certainly unforgettable, and I guess. With the amount of people right now that are viewing it on Discovery Plus, I guess people are picking up on the same. I mean, it's just it's a story unlike any other else.
Well, I'll be dialed in on this one for sure, just like I was on the previous ones. Is it too soon to preview what's next?
I definitely wish I could, but what I can say is for all the people that are really liking to see Cindy, Kaye, and I team up together on these type of cases, it seems that there will certainly be more.
What's it been like working with this kind of format? Because this isn't the traditional TV that you got a certain date where you pump out a bunch of them and then they air and then they're gone. Discovery Plus has been kind of a different beast with the way they've approached content. And I know from a consumer standpoint, it's been fantastic. What about from a creator standpoint, working in this format?
Well, actually for me, I feel right at home because essentially kind of how I was discovered by them is I've been doing my own independent paranormal investigation documentaries for 13 years. I've released 10 films on my own. So I feel very comfortable in the much longer, more detailed, more thorough content format. So documentaries to me are right up my alley. And I love it because truly we get to dive in so much deeper. We have more time, the liberty of having more time to dig deeper into the case. So I'm very happy about being part of the Shock Doc series.
It's kind of like when to make it on my level there. It's like introducing a morning radio guy to podcasting. It's like you tell me I can tell the story till the story's over, not till at the top of the hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's a perfect analogy. And so I was already from that world. In fact, if anything, when I first got my own series, which is also on Discovery Plus, Haunting in the Heartland, that took a little getting used to because I was used to digging into one case as deep as I could possibly want to go and as long as I wanted to go, and then try to be able to condense that perhaps in a couple of hours. And then I had to get used to maximizing the most of the time I had available to investigate a case. But as long as we're out there and we're helping people and we're doing what needs to be done, it's great.
And it will continue to be great. I'm sure this one is just like the previous ones have been. And I'm telling you right now, Steve, once you know what path you're on for the next one, I got to get you back on again because these have been home runs so far. And this one will be as well on Discovery Plus. It's called Scream, the True Story. He is Steve Shippy. We always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If nothing else, I can walk away from this interview, go upstairs one floor, where right now on our sister station 104.9 is Jacob Hester. And I could say, you think you're the only guy that's terrorized Florida who's originally from Shreveport? Is that in poor taste? Maybe, maybe not. The content that Discovery Plus has been putting out has been kind of, well, if you're a nerd like me, next level. If you're into that sort of thing, it's been next level. Steve has been more than gracious with his time with us. He's been on, I want to say 4 times now, talking about Haunting in the Heartland, talking about the other Shock Docs episodes. And like I said, this one, no doubt, will be that same caliber. I can't wait on this one. It is a little bit different that the Ed Gein story was the Psycho story, like verbatim, right? This is kind of a different path. This is like the Danny Rowling story was like a choose your own adventure for Scream, right? It's like it could have been this, this, or this. So they chose one path beyond that. So it's not a copy of a copy. It's a bit more the movie Scream taking a little more artistic license, if you will. All right. We got a break. When we come back, interview that I recorded the other day, Delta Force veteran and retired Lieutenant Colonel Brad Taylor. He's the author of the new book, End of Days. This is an interesting perspective from a novelist being able to bring real-world military experience into his writing. He joins us next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Yeah, but could Danny Rowling do it on 4th down? I didn't think so. Give me Hester all day long. Too much? You need to know the 2007 LSU Florida football game? Okay. Okay. Well, I thought maybe it was before your time a little bit. And that's not an age knock. That's just, like, legitimately. Oh, Nori has already seen it. She says it's creepy. Nice. Yeah. But, like, so you're 20 what? 23. 2007 was 14 years ago? So you'd have been 9. I'm not expecting you to remember 4th down conversions as a 9-year-old. I'm just... Yeah, when Wing got the penalty for taunting. Yeah, looking back. That's embrace that. When your punter gets called for unsportsmanlike conduct because he's a badass. Oh, remember when Australia used to be a badass country? Now they're just completely locked down because of COVID. Back in my day, Australia would have said, that's not a virus. That's a virus. That was a Crocodile Dundee reference. Foo Fighters. Oh, if you're wondering why I was pronouncing it like that when I did it in news earlier, the reason behind that is Dave Grohl tells a story about the Foo Fighters were the musical guests on an episode of Saturday Night Live that was hosted by Christopher Walken. And Walken, being the consummate professional that he is, approached Dave Grohl before the show and says, is there any special way y'all pronounce this name, the name of the band? Is it Foo Fighters? And Dave Grohl, knowing how Christopher Walken speaks, says, no, you've got to put the emphasis on fight and fighters. That's it. That's the way it sounds. It sounds a little bit different, but you got to put the emphasis on like the IGHT, the fight and fighters. So on that episode of SNL, when they come back from commercial before the first musical performance, the camera opens on Christopher Walken. Ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters! And like, how beautiful of a man is Dave Grohl? Like, how perfect is that?
Legend.
To have that force. And it played out like that. It's documented history. It's like Saturday Night Live. You can go to the tape. You can go to the tape. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters. Let me go tell Anna she needs to update this. We are joined right now by a retired lieutenant colonel, former Delta Force veteran, and now author, Brad Taylor. Brad, good morning. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this. End of Days is available now. Brad Taylor, welcome aboard. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. Let's talk a little bit about End of Days. Your characters, Pike Logan and Jennifer Cahill, are back at it. What can we expect from this book?
Actually, the novel itself came out of, I got locked in for COVID, and in my back pocket, I always had this thing I wanted to write about. I came out of book research for Ring of Fire like 5 books ago out of Morocco, and I was in Rome, and we were doing a Segway tour because we're Great American Tourists. And this car came by with diplomatic plates, and the tour guide said, "That's a Knight of Malta." And I said, "What's a Knight of Malta? I've never heard of that." Well, it turns out they've been around since the 13th century, since the First Crusade. And it's an organization that has their own passports. They have diplomatic relations with a plethora of countries. They make their own currency. They have their own postage. They have a seat at the United Nations, observer status, but a seat at the United Nations. But they own no terrain. And I was like, that is fascinating. And so I stuck it in my back pocket and said, sooner or later I'm going to write a book about them. Well, then I got locked in on COVID, and the only thing that was running was Amazon. And I said, well, Amazon can deliver you some books on that organization. And so they did. And I decided to write a book about them.
Knights of Malta. It's intriguing, and it's intriguing on a number of different levels. The idea behind these. How much of your real life experience plays into your writing? I would imagine you have just a wealth of knowledge to share.
Yeah, you can't help but use your own experiences when you write. Any writer would do that. If you were, if you're going to write a scene about riding a bicycle, you think about the last bike you rode. If you're going to write a shootout in a grocery store, you think about the last grocery store you're in. So when I'm writing my books, nothing in there is anything I've ever done because that's all classified. But you can't help but use your own experiences. If I'm writing a gunfight, if I'm writing a house assault, if I'm writing the planning process at the operational strategic level, it's because I'm using my own experiences. I lived through that, so I'm going to put it in the book, and it's as true to life as I can make it.
How difficult is it to walk that line between leaning on your own experience and not violating something that you know you're not supposed to share?
It's actually not that difficult. Classified stuff usually revolves around three things. There's a location, there's an operation, or there's a capability. And for locations and operations, I just ignore that completely because none of the stuff in my books has anything to do with any locations or operations that are actually accurate. Capability, on the other hand, is a little bit tougher because I know the capabilities we have, and I have to not talk about those capabilities. In fact, there's quite a few times where I talk about a capability that we cannot do. The terrorists are using communication method X because the NSA can't track it when I know internally they absolutely can. So if you want to use my books as a playbook, go ahead. You're going to get rolled up. That's the hardest part, is trying to find a capability that we don't have. It's gotten easier over time because I'm now more distance, and technology just increases with leaps and bounds. And so now I actually, instead of looking to Department of Defense or the CIA, what are you guys doing? I look at criminals. Criminals are on the forefront of every penetration we have, and they do things that when I see a criminal strike here, for instance, there was a story that came out that when you have your cell phone and you go into a Starbucks, if you've been there before, your phone will hook to the Wi-Fi automatically, yes, unless you're one of the 99.9% person who says always ask. When I come to my house, my phone hooks to my Wi-Fi. I don't tell it to ask me every time to hook to Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. Well, these criminals figured that out, and they said that they hovered a drone outside of a Starbucks in Manhattan, right above a road intersection, a cross street, right before where the Starbucks is, and everybody that came out of Starbucks thought that they were talking. The phones they had thought they were talking to Starbucks, and they drained all their personal information and used it. And I heard that, and I'm like, I can use that in the book.
So you've seen things in real life that obviously not sharing through the classified, but you've seen things and replicated them in novel form. Have you ever seen anything in novel form come to fruition in real life after the fact from your own work?
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, actually, the world itself, as far as terrorism goes, as far as conflict goes, there's not a whole lot new under the sun since Cain and Abel. That you can always find something in a novel and say, oh, wow, that actually happened. But the truth of the matter is it's probably happened before.
Started putting pen to paper back in 2011, so you're a full decade in. How has the game changed over that time?
The game changed as the publishing industry?
Just as a writer following this particular path.
For me, it hasn't changed. I'm still trying to understand the publishing world. I mean, I'm a military guy. I still don't understand it. I write. All I do is sit there and say, what would I like to read? I'm a reader first. I'm a voracious reader. And so when I write a book, all I'm doing is writing what I would like to read. I don't try to chase trends. I don't try to chase, what I think will sell. I write what I would like to read. And if the public doesn't want to read what I like to read, then I'm a failure. And so far that hasn't happened because apparently I like to read what everybody else likes to read.
Well, yeah, there's so many different levels of intrigue, especially when I'm reading about End of Days and what it will have in store for us as well. It is, I don't know if it's following a pattern or leading the path for where our curiosity, our want for action and adventure would come from as well. Hey, it says here that you also serve as a security consultant when not writing. What's that balance like, walking between the real life analysis and the fictitious analysis?
Oh, the balance is there is no balance actually, because I try to write real world. I try to infuse my books with there's no preaching in the books. There's no politics. I don't do politics. I've had 16 books written with multiple presidential administrations, and I've never once mentioned what party they're from. I don't do politics. I don't like somebody preaching to me, and I'm not going to preach to somebody else. On the other hand, there are a lot of geopolitical fault lines around the world that people don't realize exist, and I try to capture that in the books. I try to do it in a nuanced way so that by the time you're done with the book, you really enjoyed the book, but you actually kind of learned something you didn't know was actually there. And the security consulting helps with that. I mean, there's all kinds of fault lines around the world that the United States doesn't realize is there.
Yeah, and they continue to grow, especially in this cyber end of the world. Gets more and more to the forefront. Hey, before I get you out of here, graduate of the University of Texas, should I be welcoming you to the Southeastern Conference, or are we bitter about this?
I don't know how that's going to work out. My wife and I were talking about that the other day. A&M, which was our hated rival before, has been in the SEC for a few years now, and now we'll see where that goes.
He is Brad Taylor. The book is called End of Days. It is available now. Brad, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for your service to our nation, and thank you for bringing us a little entertainment on the back end of that service as well.
Thank you. And if anybody wants to check out excerpts of any of my books, actually, End of Days included, they can go to my website at bradtaylorbooks.com.
Brad Taylor, we always appreciate the information. The interview is available on demand at talk1073.com right after the show is over with. Full disclosure, I knocked that interview out a couple days ago. We had him on. Did not have time in that day's show, which seems to be happening more and more. So we kind of roll it forward. But I didn't want to miss the chance for that perspective. Although there was one question, he missed the point on one of those questions. And so those interviews are time limited. They're part of an overall tour where they'll hit, okay, you're on in Baton Rouge now. The host's name is Brian. Okay, you're on in Pittsburgh now. The host's name is Steve. I have, I believe I have 8.5 minutes, or it's 8 to 9 minutes is what they say, to get in everything I can get in. And one of the questions I was asking was about how the game has changed. I wasn't talking about the publishing game. I was talking about, you're a former Delta Force veteran and a retired lieutenant colonel. You bring a level of intelligence, not just like acumen and intelligence like within your own brain, but military intelligence to it as well. Like, how close can you stay to reality based off of, here's a perfect example. Tony Romo goes from the football field to the booth, right? Now he's calling games. Well, his first 2 seasons out of football, he could basically tell you what play was coming next, down to the name, the snap count, the positioning, which receiver was going to be the first route, which receivers were going to be check downs. Like, he could tell you physically what was happening on the field because he still had his playbook memorized from previously. But as time wanes, the game on the field changes, and the guy in the booth gets that much further removed from it. That's where I was going with that question. But in a 9-minute interview, I kind of have to keep rolling on. So, any Hoosers. After the show today, I believe I still have time to swing by Go Slim Nutrition. If you have not yet swung by Go Slim Nutrition, I got to ask you why not. We're 21 days into the new year. Where are you at on your New Year's resolution? We are 3 weeks into a new year. Where are you at with adopting healthier lifestyles? Where are you at with dropping a few pounds? Where are you at with getting yourself to being a healthier you. 763-9600 is the phone number. 763-9600 is the phone number. I've taken part in the program. I'm down close to 60 pounds. I am within range of the weight I graduated high school at. 45 years old. And I'm just a few pounds away from the weight I graduated high school at. And this isn't just some fad diet. The basis of it is a protein diet. Like Ideal Protein a little bit, but the food's better. And there's local coaching, local counseling, local accountability. The game changer with Go Slim Nutrition is the accountability. You weigh in every week and you talk about what you did right, what you did wrong. Then you map out your next week. All right, what's on tap for next week? Well, I got this meeting on Monday. I'm going to be at this luncheon on Tuesday. Me and the wife are going out with some friends, so I'm going to be drinking on Thursday night. You can map your week out and fit this program into your lifestyle accordingly to continue to see results. Other diets, if you get them online, I can save some money online. You get them online. When you fall off the wagon, there's nobody helping you back on. There's no extended hand reaching out, saying, here, let's pick you back up and keep you on that path towards your goals. Want to get a jump start on things? They've got a jump start plan. Want to get a jump start on that? You can adopt a 45-day program like Lent before Lent. Adopt one healthier lifestyle for the next 45 days. Then team up with Go Slim Nutrition to make sure that that is catapulting you towards a better, healthier you. 763-9600, GEAUXSlimBR.com, or just visit. They're on Blue Bonnet at Perkins. They're right next door to Rouse's. It's Go Slim Nutrition. We're going to check your money now here in just a minute. I got less than a minute to do this, but I do want to send a shout-out to all those students who have made the trek to Washington, D.C. today. Today is the March for Life, and they've been welcomed with 19-degree temperatures. But for a lot of high school students that are making the trip, and I know there's a lot of grown-ups out there too, but for a lot of high school students, this is their first foray into the public process, into the process of free speech, into speaking up for what they believe in. The March for Life is a bigger event every single year, and it is today. It is going on right now. Your high today in Washington, D.C., 29 degrees. So they're diving in full polar bear style. But safe travels to those who are expressing their views. Here's your money now. Did she say slapdick shares are down? I don't think that's a thing, Hoss. Oh, Netflix. John Bell 2, please. Oh, Squid Game's coming back for more abuse. We already did 3. Oh, yeah. Well, the fact that when I said that, there was still a 30% chance we were going to catch more rain. So, this thing's such a nothing burger. So I got one guy was texting me earlier in the week. He's like, are we doing coverage? I'm like, no. He's like, it's going to be a thing, man. I'm like, it's not. I already did that one. Yeah. So, Eric, are you still watching us on YouTube right now? This journal arrived from Europe today and contains shocking Templars in America secrets, including the answers to the Oak Island treasure mystery. I don't want the answers. I want the fantasy. Hey, yo. Russell Honore tweets 1 year ago today, the January 6th security review started work to review the Capitol attack. The House bill, $1.9 billion, was reduced in the Senate, blah, blah, blah. Hardening the Capitol, putting in more Capitol Police fencing. Anyway, Russell Honore was called upon on this day last year to help ensure the safety of the Capitol. Last night, Russell Honore tweeted, "This was not about the Capitol, but I'm shocked I haven't gotten any hate over this." Russell Honore tweeted, and he's been sounding off as a political platform and leaning on his military background as a reason to not be ever questioned, I guess. I don't know. "When I served our nation for 37 years, no one asked me if I was an American." Talking about Mitch McConnell. "Why are you fighting so hard to take voting rights away from people that look like me?" Wow. Wow. I had no idea that when you enlisted in the military, you did not have to prove your age. There's 169 responses to that tweet. Mine's the only one that's negative. I don't know why. But I find it hard to believe that no one's ever asked him for an ID anywhere, a military ID anywhere. Such a load of shit. All of the comments are based off of a racial diatribe. You too, brother. Oh. 8:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. One segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane before we call it a weekend. Look, we talk with the Shock Docs guy. We talk with an author. I like to end the week with on a little bit more of a lighter side. But there is still news to tend to before we get out of here, and I got to recap one more time. City Parish buildings will be open for 10 o'clock this morning. If you don't already know about your school situation, well, you're hella late because if they're going virtual, they probably already started. Although diocesan schools, I know my daughter's high school, she doesn't have to be in until 10 o'clock. She has to be logged in by 10 o'clock. Nonetheless, if you don't know about your kid's school situation, hit up your kid's school right now. And you probably should have already heard from your work as well. A couple more news items that we need to hit on, and we are still at 32 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. We're going to be at freezing for about another hour before we break out of it. The first of these news items was an announcement that was made during the governor's COVID press conference yesterday. And it involves the total case count for COVID-19 in Louisiana. And it's something that I was shocked to learn wasn't already being done. Here's the governor talking about reinfections yesterday.
Starting yesterday, reinfections are now included in our COVID statewide case counts. And of course, we're using the same definition of reinfection that we've been getting from the federal government. And I know you have to have a period of 90 days between being positive before it's considered a reinfection. I think Dr. Kenner is going to get more into that in just a moment. But that's something we said last week that we would start to do because those are new cases of COVID. And up to yesterday, we weren't really reflecting those in our daily counts.
How and or why? So this is kind of a two-sided coin here. On the one side, we surpassed 1 million COVID cases. What, this week, the beginning of this week? If you're counting reinfections, if you were to add all of the reinfections to that list, all the reinfections that weren't counted to that list, how much further down the road would we be as far as the overall number of cases? How much more widespread would COVID be perceived as if we were counting the number of reinfections? You would see that much more COVID out there. The governor says there's still a whole lot of COVID out there. You would see that much more COVID out there if from the first time someone got reinfected, that counted as a different case, that counted as a new case. It would be that much more widespread. Conversely, it would be a little less deadly, percentage-wise. 15,283 deaths in Louisiana out of 1,097,000 cases is one thing. 15,000 deaths out of 1.5 million cases lowers that number ever so slightly. I'm not saying there was intent or motive behind any of this. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm saying there's not. What I'm saying is I'm glad they're starting to count them now. But one of the things that a lot of us have craved from the beginning of this is the overwhelming amount. We want an overwhelming amount of analytics. I want as many numbers as you can throw at me. In order to get a clear picture of where we're going, and we're 2 years in and we're clearer, but in order to get a clear picture of where we're going, the more numbers we can have, the more we can find what's the right input to get the right output. And I'm going to add this one on too. There's one more that I want. How many Louisianans have not yet gotten COVID? Now that we're counting reinfections, it's quite possible that the number of total cases could surpass the number of total residents. So how many haven't gotten it at all? Hopefully we could dive into that in the near future. The last news note, is Congress going to look at banning nutria trapping? Oh, we'll talk about that next week. Fox News Rundown's coming up. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Well, I just took a 6-minute take and narrowed it down to 2.5 minutes. As of right now, I'm not going to be able to let this go. I know I'm a numbers nerd. I get that. That's why I have an affinity for the chief of police. And I know a lot of y'all hate him, and that's fine. If reinfections had been counted from the start and 15% of those who had been infected got reinfected, and I believe that number to be higher. But if we're just looking at 15% of infections got reinfected, our caseload right now would be 1.262 million, not 1.097 million. Now, 1,262,035, 15283 divided by 1,262,835 equals 0.012. It would reduce the percentage of COVID cases who die. If you got COVID and survived, COVID and died, you are, up until day before yesterday, one COVID case, one COVID death. The way they're finally starting to count it now, if you got COVID and survived, COVID and died, you're now 3 COVID cases and 1 COVID death. Thinking in those terms, if I tell you 1 out of every COVID case will die, that's scary as hell. If I tell you 1 out of 3, still scary, but much, much less so. If you sit down at a roulette wheel and I tell you there's a 100% chance that if you put your money here, you're going to win, you're going to put your money there. If I tell you there's a 1 in 36 chance, now it's all over the board. It changes things. It changes numbers dramatically. I shouldn't be harping on this shit. It's the weekend. Y'all, we got so much in store for next week. Lenny Kaye, on with us next week. Woody Overton, on with us next week. Congressman Carter's supposed to be back in. Congressman Graves back in. Comedian Dusty Slay, on with us next week. Give me 1 second, responding to a text. There are, from the show The Doctors, what is Dr. Ian's last name? Hang on. Azar. Dr. Ian Smith will be on with us next week. Along with Dr. Ian Smith, we will also have, this is the one I was trying to remember. It's time. I've got to do this. So I'm up for a couple of LAB awards, and I've got to go back through every show from last year to find a few highlights. And it reminded me, I need to have my B-list celebrity wall of fame. So joining the show next week, for the second time, Eric Roberts. If you were around for the first time, guy's a friggin' hoot. He was awesome. So Eric Roberts, who you may know from, I don't know, every movie ever. Your boy's IMDb page is longer than my, well, it's long. Watch this. Eric Roberts. E-R-I-C-R-O-B. Not just Julia Roberts' brother, y'all. That's not him. Hang on. Wrong Eric Roberts, damn it. What the hell? Does he not have a... Eric Roberts. There it is. Everything from Runaway Train to The Dark Knight. I mean, The Expendables. Alter. Oh, yeah, that was terrible. That movie was awful. The Best of the Best. Remember The Best of the Best? That shitty karate movie? That thing was filmed on somebody's camcorder? God, that movie was bad. What else do we have here? We got... Boy, so many movies I don't even know. As an actor, he's got 768 titles. Oh, I'm sorry. As an actor, 583 movies under his belt on IMDb. And he's as eclectic and off the wall as possible. Friggin' love that guy. Any Hoosers. Eric Roberts next week. Of course, we'll have all the weekly staples. Franz will be in. Haggai will hopefully be back. Patty G will be in. So got a full stack for next week. We're ready to roll. Ready to roll. We'll have y'all be safe, be warm, stay out of the cold as much as you can this weekend, and we will see you next week. Later, taters.